Secrets, joined once again by Mitch Vexler, and he has really taken things to another level with the fraud of our taxes and so forth, property taxes, how they've been manipulated in Texas, where he has a very good case against the all the way up to the Texas Supreme Court, and going all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States. So this is incredible. We're going to be talking about that. So Mitch, thanks so much for joining us once again.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to help bring people up to speed as to what's happening. And the only word I can think of is egregious action by the Supreme Court of Texas. But more than likely, it's going to get undone for a variety of reasons that we'll touch on today. But their actions are such that they created deprivation of rights, which is a federal crime, against not just Vexler, but against all Texans. And they denied a case to be heard, not just under Texas constitutional law, but under the constitutional law of the United States of America. So in essence, the question that's being presented to the Supreme Court of the United States is whether a state, and I'll touch on that in a second, a state may do an end run around its own constitution and the Constitution of the United States of America. And why is this so important? Because what the Supreme Court of Texas has done is they created a replicable template for other states to follow. So not only have the deprivation of rights been committed against 32 million Texans, but in reality, if other states follow the Supreme Court of Texas, you can kiss the Constitution of the United States of America goodbye, because they would have effectively done an end run around it. And that's why this isn't going to stand.
Yeah, so it's when you break it down, you found the fraud because you're dealing in real estate, you're buying and selling and so forth, and you're seeing the property taxes are going up way more than it should be, way more, because of the rate of inflation is a certain percentage, but the rate of the property taxes going up was ridiculously much higher. And so you started doing the research, and you see that these property taxes are, we give them, we trust them. We've given them the trust to, do these property taxes and appraise property. And you found that they were appraising these properties illegally in some cases, well, all of the cases really, to a point where they just shut everything down and just started putting in numbers on their own.
So if you go back 5 years and you use the average value of a house of $220,000, by virtue of inflation, that $220,000, give or take, legitimately would turn somewhere around $272,000 today. That's not what happened, according to the central appraisal districts. What happened was that $220,000 house became worth $440,000. And through that process of the overvaluation, which is fraud, then the net result to the school districts from which bonds are raised is that they stole, this is the fraudulent component, not the total tax, just the fraudulent component, $17,700 from the average property owner who had a $220,000 home. They did that in the last 5 years. Now, multiply that by roughly 149 million homes. The damage, 2.6 trillion. Hard cash, stolen, pure fraud, and it's irrefutable. The math is the math. No judge on this planet can change the arithmetic. And no judge can explain the economic damages done through these bonds, because no judge can trace it, because the courts are prohibiting tracing the QSIPs. How much money was actually raised? We've calculated it. We did it through a backdoor method of roughly $5.1 trillion. Now, I know it's more than that, because they have 313 agreements, they have energy contracts, they have off-balance sheet financing. I've seen all that, but I can't quantify it. What I could quantify is looking at the median home income, figuring out what the values were, and then backing in to the multiples of how much money was raised by the school districts with regard to the fraudulent school district bonds. Roughly 5.1 trillion.
Wow. Wow. Incredible. Now, I've seen a couple of presentations now at the Fraud Fighter Summits, and the last one you did was incredible. I mean, you exposed that it's not just the bond fraud in the property tax area, it's also the it spills right over into election fraud and the fraud in so many other areas. So they use the same process. Is that correct?
It's not the same process, but what had happened through a video that I did, Edward Solomon reached out through Mark Cook. So Mark Cook called me and said, Ed Solomon would like to have a conversation with you. And I said, okay. So what Ed saw in me, which wasn't really articulated at that time, he went into the math. But the nexus between the two cases, his case against the manufacturer of the voting machines themselves, so Ed was an expert witness, or to be an expert witness. What he saw was correct, which is there's two parallel cases, two different issues, having the exact same problem, which is the inability or the prohibition of having a case adjudicated. Edward Solomon, as the expert witness, was never allowed to walk into a courtroom. They knew if he walked in, they lose. It's that simple. He's got the math. I've got their spreadsheets. So it's Ed Solomon, Roger Fuller, and as a different mathematician, Dr. Andrew Paquette. They had come to the same conclusion about the election fraud software and how it's done. Mm-hmm. Well, what's the nexus to the real estate tax? Real estate taxes and the fraudulent component of those taxes is money spent at the school districts to cover off fraudulent bonds. The problem is that money to cover off those fraudulent bonds, A, doesn't exist under the median household income. B, the bonds themselves, as I proved at the Fraud Fighter Summit, there never was, and I mean never, a legitimate reason for any school district to go and raise bonds. It is a mechanism to strip mom and pop's equity out of their house. That is clearly what I laid out. Well, it turns out that an analysis was done on Bexar County, Texas, and Harris County, Texas. And what did they find in the school districts? The exact same flip function inside the voting software that took place. In other words, there are people who are sitting on these school district boards that were put there by virtue of fraud inside the software. Mm. So it's a cacophony of fraud everywhere. And that's what we called out. And it's a horrible situation. But the bottom line is there is no election that could be even deemed legitimate but for a punch bowl and paper ballots and voter ID. If it touches software, it's automatically suspect. Wow. And we have the math to back that statement up. These voter machines must be destroyed. The software must be destroyed and never allowed to be used again in history. This stuff is poison. And we've proven it. You saw Ed Solomon on stage. You saw Roger Fuller on stage. What they have come across and the method of the hidden vote distortion logic is not up for debate. It's real. You can say, well, I disagree with it. Go ahead. Disprove it. And therein lies the problem. I laid down that gauntlet. Nobody in all these hearings, all these rehearings, have been able to prove that we're wrong on anything. So I laid down the gauntlet. FBI, DOJ, SEC, IRS. If you think we're wrong on something, for crying out loud, say it. We'll remove it. The problem is there's another 1,100 documents in behind it. The point being, if you can't disprove it, then it occurred. And if it occurred, those people who are stopping adjudication of proven fraud are guilty. And therein is the reason why we're having problems of being heard. There are people who have been put in office that aren't supposed to be there, and we've got the math through the cast vote records to back that up. In fact, on the Second Amendment to the criminal complaint, there's a photographic evidence that for those who go to a voting booth and you see a touchscreen, we have the photographic evidence that the barcodes on the touchscreen have the flip function built into each one of those little black lines. These elections are predetermined, and therein is the huge problem. So not only is your money being equity stripped out of your house, your vote may not be what you think your vote is. And the only way to fix it is to destroy, and I mean destroy, the voting machines, the voting software, and put those who are responsible for prior elections in jail. It's on both sides of the aisle.
That sounds good to me. I like the way you're thinking. And a lot of people are like, well, let's just stop paying property taxes. But you have made a case that that's not the way this works. And in the military, I learned very early on, if you have a bitch, you better have a solution. So you've been pointing out fraud, but you also have a solution. You could take away the fraud and then start to put out not a property tax, but a tax, a county tax, which would cover within 2 to 3 years all of the issues that needed to be covered, and then you could reassess at that point. Is that kind of correct?
So in the case of Texas, now this is not applicable in particular to Montana, which could do this at a 9% sales tax rate effective today.
Wow.
But in the case of Texas, because of what I had mentioned before with regard to the 313 agreements, the off-balance sheet financing, all this other kabuki theater having to do where money is put into economic development commissions, as an example. The way to get around this is you say, fine, for 3 years, the sales tax total in the state of Texas will go to 15%. Upon stabilization, after the school districts take bankruptcy, it'll drop to about 11%. Texas is probably the worst out of the worst. Ohio is bad, but in terms of sales tax, Texas is probably at the top of the list. So that's about as bad as it's going to get, but it's a very short-term basis. So then the next question would be, why the sales tax? Because the infrastructure exists and it's immediate, right? If you go to a grocery store, you buy a chocolate bar, you're going to pay 15% and that's the end of it. You buy a 2x4 at Home Depot, 15% tax. It's immediate, the infrastructure exists, and municipal items, fire departments, police departments, what have you, and even schools have to have their true operating expenses covered. They have to submit a legitimate budget, not based on raising bonds, a legitimate budget, and that is what that tax covers and should cover. No problem. The issue that we're speaking about is the fraud, because what they've done is they took from the school districts and they created bonds. So they take the money from mom and pop. But you have to realize that what you would normally get in your amortization schedule on your house, when you pay off your mortgage, that's your amortization. When they raise the taxes on an annual basis, de facto, they are equity stripping your amortization. You will never own that house. You would just keep paying in perpetuity. So what do we have? Well, we have a sales tax that kills off all real estate tax, restoring true property ownership. No longer will any real estate tax or property tax be in existence. You bought it, you own it, never to be taxed again.
Wow, good. That's incredible. And now I'm gonna put on the screen the letter. I guess you've got some. Peter Tickton is involved in this. Peter Tickton, for those of you, I did a show with Peter Tickton. He was with President Trump when they were going to school together, military academy. So they've known each other for a long time. Peter Tickton was involved with, freeing Tina Peters. Obviously that took some time, but he was, directly involved in that. And now he he saw Mitch's presentation, and he was like, he wanted to talk to you right away. So that's great. So tell us a little bit about what happened.
It went through a series of meetings. So I spent probably 6-7 hours with Mr. Tickton over those 2 days. And David Kenny was also there. So these two gentlemen are both attorneys, both of which happen to be licensed to appear in front of the Supreme Court of the United States.
Wow.
So the way to get this done is to get the attention of Solicitor General Sauer, which is what it is that you're looking at in front of you. Because he is the back door to the Supreme Court of the United States, and he can insist, as can the president, that the Supreme Court of the United States should hear this case. This is not just a Texas case. This is now a national problem, because if other states copy what the Supreme Court of Texas did, constitutional rights no longer exist. Cannot stand under any circumstance. So temporarily,
tell us how they did that. They took our constitutional rights and basically built a box around them, so that if you tried to come in and protest, hey, I need judicial clarity on this. I need the judicial system to look at this. This seems fraudulent to me. You wouldn't even be able to do that.
Exactly, and that's the problem. So there are laws against this. 18 U.S. Code Section 242. It's a crime. Literally, it's a crime, federal crime, for any person acting under the color of law to willfully deprive someone of their rights protected by the Constitution or the U.S. laws, including states' constitutions. It is an undeniable fact that my rights and the rights of every Texan have been denied, as adjudication of known proven fraud has been prohibited. One word, denied. Well, other states can do the same thing, and using the way you just said it, yeah, they built a box around it. You can't touch us. We're a court, except for one problem. 18 U.S. Code 242 wouldn't exist if a crime was never being committed. And then U.S. Code 42, Section 1983, individuals can sue. Mom and pop can sue these people, including the judges, for deprivation of federal rights committed under the color of law. They can't hide from this. And it goes one step up in that a contract that is designed to break the law isn't a contract in the eyes of the law. No court has any capacity whatsoever to make a determination that, oh, no, you don't get to go into court. That's not the job of a judge. Adjudication is the job. Prohibition of adjudication is not. And that is what the Supreme Court of Texas did. And what makes it national now in scope is that other states may very well try to follow suit. This has to be shut down.
That's incredible. So what we're seeing right now, and similarly, not exactly the same, but similarly, Nick Shirley in California Senate committee, they're holding a hearing to stop Nick Shirley Act. This bill will criminalize and punish anyone from looking into fraud inside immigrant communities in California. So they started this bill because he was starting to expose fraud in the billions of dollars. And so they're creating a bill, kind of like what we're talking about right now, which would prohibit anyone from looking at their fraud. It's unbelievable, but this is what we're talking about here. It's widespread. So this would set a precedence potentially, which would collapse all of these systems of fraud and control around the country. Is that correct?
They're going to collapse one way or the other. The only question is, do you have controlled demolition, which is the preference, or do they keep pushing this can to the point where it just simply blows up? And when I mean blows up, you're going to walk into the market one day and it'll be down 2,000 or 3,000 points, because all credibility on behalf of the U.S. government will be shot. If you have the ability to say, okay, fine, we recognize the fraud, we know where it is, we know who did it, we know how it was done, the $5.1 trillion in outstanding fraudulent school district bond debt, why would you not go after that in order to rescue the big kahuna. The big kahuna are the U.S. treasuries, 2s, 5s, 7s, 10s, and 30s. Without credibility of the U.S. government, they will disintegrate. Now, are they 30 cents on the dollar, 40 cents on the dollar? I don't know. Don't care. I don't have any of them. But a lot of people do. So this is really an issue about credibility, including that, what you just mentioned at the state of California. But to be crystal clear, the federal predicate is deprivation of rights under color of law. Well, that's exactly what's happening in California, and that's exactly what has happened with the Supreme Court here in Texas. It's a federal crime. But here's the problem on the Texas side, which may grow exponentially. That deprivation of rights, you must understand that that is a guarantee of taxation without representation. Representation means law. Taxation without law. 250 years ago, the War of Independence and the founding of the United States of America was over that issue. No taxation without representation. It's back. And because this is so egregious, and I know that attorneys, well, we have to talk nice to judges, et cetera, under normal circumstances, I get it. But the bottom line here, there's nothing nice about this. It's basically the Supreme Court of Texas has stripped the constitutional rights of all citizens. The same grievance that founded the United States of America is back. The Supreme Court of Texas is supporting fraud. They don't want this case adjudicated. Well, too bad, because in exchange for you not wanting this case adjudicated and keeping me out of a courtroom, and keeping all Texans for that matter out of a courtroom, what should happen? The entirety of the bench, the Supreme Court of Texas, should be impeached. That's how bad and how egregious this is. This is no joke. The United States of America is a republic. It has a constitution. This is what separates us from everybody else on the planet. Under no circumstance should that even be questionable. And yet, here we are.
Yeah, it's incredible. And, one of the slides, and you shared this with me, that you put out in your recent briefing. So you said this is not a theoretical case. 42 million American households are one $9,000 emergency away from losing their homes. Roughly 7,000 of those dollars are property tax. Wow. So this is something everybody needs to really stand up and take notice of.
The actions of the Supreme Court of Texas, and I changed the title on my document a couple of days before I gave that presentation, and it's foretelling. What has happened here is foretelling of an act of war. Why? Because history says so. Our country was founded on this one issue: no taxation without representation. We have law. We know that. We have facts. We know that. We have the math. We most certainly know that. What do they have? They have the crimes. And the Supreme Court of Texas has chosen, not once, but twice, to protect the crimes.
Wow.
They're protecting the fraud. Therein lies the problem. If other states move to copy, it's a national issue.
Yeah. So it is back on the 250th anniversary of the founding of our republic. This, taxation without representation, and that's what we're seeing in Texas and across the country, probably in every county. You've looked at this is going on pretty much in every county. What do we have? How many counties do we have in America? 1,000, 3,000?
3,147, I believe.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, we have not seen, let's put it this way, if a school district is involved and the school district is raising bonds, we have not seen a single county that is being held accountable for the fraud that they have created. And there's a slide in that deck I believe it's slide 8, called the infection rate spreadsheet. And in that infection rate spreadsheet, I have proven irrefutably that there's not a single central appraisal district that is part of a school district that, in fact, is legitimate. They cannot adhere to uniform standards of professional appraisal practice. They are in breach. The CAD is utter garbage. Their databases literally are not worth 10 cents. Crimes are being committed. The pattern and practice of how this is done is clear. The pattern and practice of who did it, right? Because you have chief appraisers and you have school district superintendents who are committing bond fraud and accounting fraud. So who did it, how it was done, when it was done, because it appears in the QSIPs, it's all trackable. The problem is we don't have the subpoena power that the SEC does. The SEC can walk into these school districts and say, turn over those QSIPs and the amortization schedules. You got 5 minutes. If you don't, we'll arrest you. They have that type of power. They need to use it. But the bottom line is the crimes have been committed.
Yeah, so they're up against the wall now. And when does this case go before I guess the Supreme Court of Texas?
So the Supreme Court of Texas is done. That case was finalized on May 7th, I believe, May 7th or May 8th. So we have till August 6th to get a writ of certiorari into the Supreme Court of the United States. Wow. And that's what I'm working on with Peter Tickton right now and David Kenny and ideally Solicitor General Sauer immediately to get this into gear, to get it submitted. And ideally, because it's an emergency basis, it could be heard within 60 to 90 days. But this case better be heard or the United States of America is in big trouble.
So what kind of time frame do you see? Because you think about the debt would probably be exposed to the point where it would crash the stock market 2,000 or 3,000 points in one day. What kind of time frame do you see happening for that potential to happen?
Nobody knows the exact answer. The problem is that 42 million households, that's a huge problem. The outstanding fraudulent school district bond debt, that liability has got to come off these houses very quickly. There is no money. The median household income existing today cannot pay the interest on the outstanding bonds, 5.1 trillion, never mind paying them off. And I want to point something out. In Godly, Texas, right now today, roughly $120,000 is outstanding in school district bond debt per house. The average house in Godly is 160 grand. In 30 years from now, that 120,000 goes up 580%. Well, you have the exact same problem on the 5.1 trillion. In 30 years from now, it turns into 29 trillion. It's mathematically impossible to pay off. So the only question, and to your point, when does the market start to freak out? When they realize the truth. What I'm trying to do is push the government to recognize the truth and deal with this so we have controlled demolition. Why? Because yes, it's true that some people in their portfolios hold municipal bonds, and a portion of those municipal bonds are school district bonds. But on an individual basis, that's extremely small. 5.1 trillion is a lot of money. But on an individual basis, it's manageable. The problem is if you don't get rid of it, what in essence on a $120,000 worth of debt, that's roughly $592 a month per household to pay for that in Godly, Texas. But in 30 years, that turns into over $3,400 a month. There is no way that this is going to get paid off. Best to deal with it rather than let it blow. But the direct answer to your question is, it could be 6 months, it could be 8 months. When the market wakes up and says, yeah, we're not playing this game anymore, we're out, you'll know.
Yeah. So, the fraud has been going on for quite some time. When exactly did they start doing school bonds? There was like in the 70s or something?
Well, yes. So it goes back depending on where, what community you're looking at. However, the bonds then weren't the problem. Not good. It was a fraud.
Mhm.
But the math of the bonds, the rule of 72 kicks in. And when that occurs, you end up in a problem. So around 2000, 2001 is when the interest on the bonds jumped the principal. When that happened, it's been downhill ever since. So the bonds get bigger, and then you have the compound cumulative effect of the interest on top of the bonds, from which they have to go out and raise more bonds to pay for that interest. So you've got a circular argument, in reality, straight into hell. This cannot ever be paid off. It's mathematically impossible. The income does not exist.
Wow, incredible. So because it's been going on for so long, they've been stealing for so long. We've seen a lot of people losing their houses because of the property taxes. In your estimation, I mean, it's a real stretch to kind of figure out what those numbers are, but what would you say percentage-wise across the United States, and some areas are going to be more than others, of course, of people that are losing their homes through this fraud?
It's everywhere, but the answer is tens of thousands so far this year alone. Wow. So in Texas, you've got over 4.2 million. It's coincidental on the number, but it's over 4.2 million households cannot afford the roof over their head. That money just doesn't exist to pay the taxes. And it's even tied to hunger. So back in December, I did a story about hunger, and I tied that back to the real estate taxes. You get rid of these taxes, you can feed people who are hungry, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people are in the chat are saying, you know, their property taxes, we have Texans in here too, are super suspect. I mean, they've been exploding upwards like you've been talking about. You know, so people are aware of this before we even had this discussion. And there's, like we're talking about, there's no recourse. They protected themselves legally from, you know, exposing the fraud and saying, you know, how is our property tax going up so much? Now we're seeing properties are losing value. I've seen, like in just this one Reventure Consulting, this gentleman that comes up, he was in Atlanta, Georgia, and there's like 50% decrease in property, you know, values. So how is that going to start to impact on this? So you would think that they're having to, like, you know, constantly inflate these numbers, and now we're going to start to have real property values go down significantly. How that could accelerate the collapse, couldn't it?
Technically speaking, you should end up in a 50 to 60% devaluation from the high of what the CAD was saying with regard to value. In other words, the reversion to the mean, but for the fraud, is the bogey. If the fraud didn't exist, this money that I mentioned from the $220,000 home at $17,000 being stolen the last 5 years, that never would have happened. But I'm going to give you the cheat code. So they're going to lie, and they're going to say, well, we need to change the mill rate. We have to up our tax rate because the values are going down, so we'll change the mill rate. This is a crime. This is utter nonsense. And why is it a crime? Because that's not how uniform standards of professional appraisal practice works, which is the law, which is required in all states, which also is being ignored. And therein is the problem. There's no doubt, zero, that these people, these chief appraisers, the school district superintendents, are colluding. It's called conspiracy to defraud. They're caught. There is no way out. And what the judges are doing by backstopping them temporarily is just that. It's a temporary fix. Best the government get involved, or you're likely to end up in a kinetic war, civil war. You can't steal from people and think you're not going to be held accountable.
Yeah, civil war against the institutions that are doing the fraud, which was like we talked about, judicial and these appraisers and so forth. So it's not a big civil war. It's like there's just a few individuals that are going to be held accountable. And civil war because we're not getting any representation, so people turn into vigilante almost and start and go into the civil war type of environment where they strike back. We don't want that, obviously. So you are bringing justice so that we don't have to, go to that extreme. And I think that's going to be extremely valuable. And that's why it goes to the Supreme Court. Now, we've seen the Supreme Court has not, done some good things, lately. What are your thoughts on would they rule rightly in this case? I think so. But what are your thoughts?
I don't think they have any choice in the matter. And it's not even a question of I don't think. I know, factually speaking, they do not have any choice in the matter.
Wow.
This is so crazy to deny the rights of a citizen, the existence of the Constitution of the United States of America is beyond insane. But nonetheless, this is what they have done. The fear being that other states will follow. If other states follow, those states, and in truth, the Supreme Court would make everything illegal. There would be no law.
Wow. So the overvaluation, overtaxation, I'm reading from this one letter. Overvaluation, overtaxation in order to carry the interest on debts that are not properly tracked. So that they've done these, like you say in one of your slides, these workarounds, which is not, there's no legal word for workaround, but they've actually said that. So there's so many different things that they're being exposed for. Like you say, the Supreme Court is like, they're going to look at this like there's no other, they're going to rule against this.
Well, let me try to bring this down real quick, just to help everybody understand how egregious this is. What is the Supreme Court of Texas hiding? Well, one of the documents is something called unlimited tax. I defy anybody that's watching this video to define what an unlimited tax is. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as unlimited tax. You don't have unlimited money. Nobody does. Not even Elon Musk. Therefore, if there's no such thing as an unlimited tax, or if there's no such thing, then the question becomes, why is that being sold to the public? That's the text that is used to raise the bonds. All nonsense.
Yeah.
You can bring the whole house of cards down with 2 words.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's unbelievable. And so I know you've had, after our fraud event, you had some throat issues and you're still recovering from that. So I don't want to keep you too much longer. Thank you so much for coming on, because I know you're fighting through that and you wanted to get on and share this information. So we really appreciate that. What are the final things that we'd like to end with, so we can focus on something going forward? Some kind of recourse maybe that we're going to see. What are your thoughts?
Getting the attention of Solicitor General Sauer right now, top priority. This has to happen because he is the back door to the Supreme Court of the United States. Get me in front of the judges. I'll take care of the rest of it. That's what it comes down to. This case needs to be remanded and tried on its merits. That's all we're asking for. But continuing to hide the fraud is not going to fly.
Very good. Very good. And it's not going to fly much longer, because everybody's piling in now. So you got the top guys that are Peter Tickton. I mean, he's like a pit bull. You get him involved and it's pretty much game over. At some point they have to give up. and that's where that's where we're at right now. So, Mitch, thanks so much. Now, how can people reach you if they want to?
So my website is mockingbirdproperties.com/DCAD. And the current information is all up top with regard to the couple of presentations that I'm giving, including some of these slides. So it's all there, and probably within 3 days, the document that I just sent to Michael will actually be posted, and that is the letter that went to Solicitor General Sauer and Peter Tickton and David Kenny.
Wow.
Discussing it, and I've shared everything with the public since day one. As fast as we draft it, it's out there. We're doing that on purpose, especially now, because we need Solicitor General Sauer to step up and do his job.
So he's up against the wall. So he's got nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The information's there. So we're going to see some resolution here pretty soon. And I definitely look forward to having you back on, and we're talking about that. So fantastic as always, Mitch. Again, thanks for coming on. You've had issues with your throat, so prayers for you to get well soon, and we'll look forward to this resolution coming. So keep us informed, and we'll have you back on, and we'll talk about it. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to help update people.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm sure everybody, we say lots of love, and we're sending you lots of love and success in this. So appreciate all your efforts and what you've done to expose all this. Thank you.
Restored Republic via GCR updated. Judy note: there will soon be a martial law alert in order to change over to a new republic with a new gold/asset-backed economy, legal system under common law, plus new political and education systems. Why? This evil world is more sinister than anyone could imagine and needed to be cleansed. The Satan-worshipping globalists have complete control over the global monetary system since at least 1913. Trump's global military alliance was doing something about that. They were in the process of a global currency reset that gave the people's money back to the people. To do that, the military alliance was investigating, arresting and arranging military tribunals for Satan worshippers who have infested our politics, communities and every large organization on Earth. These black market deals fund CIA Black Ops operations, secret space programs, unacknowledged special access programs, and deep underground military bases, etc. What we thought we knew, but didn't really know and now are supposed to know but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies Hollywood style and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. June 30, 2026. Julian Assange confirmed that Hillary Clinton's email to John Podesta proves Obama, Hillary Clinton, Saudi Arabia and Qatar founded ISIS. Be possible timing: at any time the emergency broadcast system could activate. A blackout and lockdown will be global in all countries of the world. It will last 10 to 12 days when everyone will be asked to stay at home during a specific 5-hour window. Worldwide curfew in effect. Citizen movements restricted between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. Compliance mandatory. Monitored by SAT grid. Martial law protocols ensure order as final elements are neutralized. Power grid transfer begins. Nuclear and Tesla-based systems phase in. Select cities experience planned blackouts for system integration. The SWIFT system replaced. On Thursday, July 2, 2026, global media switchover. Old streams terminated. New QFS secured broadcasts begin airing truth sessions. Censorship structures dismantled. The pharmaceutical empire collapses as frequency medicine proves superior in every way. Friday 3, Sat. 4, Sunday, July 5, 2026, The Reveal. Pre-recorded presidential message broadcasts globally. Confirms restoration of constitutional republic. We took back the world. Announcement of the Global Restoration Plan. Every citizen will receive information about the new economic and legal structures. The pharmaceutical empire collapses as frequency medicine proves superior in every way. Friday, July 3, 2026, worldwide broadcast of Global Restoration Plan's new economic and legal structures. On Saturday, July 4, 2026, Trump's Independence event unveils QFS. Nizar and Jazara funds expand centers. The beginning of the international tribunals to address crimes against humanity. Major revelations will be broadcast worldwide. Sunday, July 5, 2026. Final stages of the transition to the new financial system completed. People will begin to access their revalued currencies and debt relief programs. Monday, July 6, 2026, a new era of freedom and prosperity officially begins. Twos. July 7, 2026, the absolute revaluation, RV, comes fully alive. Debt jubilee activations begin for those whose accounts were cleared. Law enforcement shifts completely to natural law protections. Wednesday, July 8, 2026, the unveiling of hidden technologies. Free energy and suppressed medical advancements are officially released to the public domain. No more scarcity. Thursday, July 9, 2026, global celebration protocols enabled. Local communities organize freedom assemblies to distribute the first wave of restoration funds. Twos. July 14, 2026, the transition begins. Your bank account won't disappear. Your money won't vanish. But the system that enslaved you will be dead. The Federal Reserve. Finished. The IRS. Finished. The old financial order. Finished. See blackout, lockdowns, what to expect, Tier 4B, ISO 20022 on Telegram. Shutdowns will occur, but only in certain areas. Banks will close, ATMs and credit cards will stop working. You'll need at least 3 weeks of food and water. If you're unprepared, don't worry, the military has your back and will supply what you need. Controlled blackouts will roll across the globe, not simultaneous, not random. Timed. Targeted. Deliberate. Martial law layers will quiet the streets while the old system is silently dismantled. Mass arrests won't look like arrests, they will show up as sudden resignations, health issues, flight cancellations, and disappearing press events. Non-stop education will be broadcast, teaching everyone about the true principles of freedom and justice. A global currency reset will shift power, from empty paper promises to real, asset-backed value. The era of cabal debt ends, legacy ledgers will be cleared, zeroed, or fulfilled. Stays alert. Nothing is random. Twos. June 30, 2026 alert, Supreme Court betrayal. Roberts and Barrett side with liberals to strike down Trump's birthright citizenship executive order, Thomas, Alito, and Gorsuch dissent. Twos. June 30, 2026 breaking alert, deep state panic. Trump demands $2.50 gas as Treasury Secretary Bessent drops ultimatum on globalist oil cartels, we're watching. Twos. June 30, 2026 boom. Trump shattering the monopoly, President signs explosive freedom to fix memorandum, crushing corporate monopolies and restoring common sense for American drivers. H2s. June 30, 2026 bombshell, clone factories raided, martial law on Telegram, Oprah, Kimmel, Biden doubles extracted from Gitmo, thousands of elite replicants unmasked in underground labs, funded by Fed corruption. Archbishop Vigano's ex-gom, deep church elites erased for hellish scandals, Vatican vaults breached, Antichrist plans spilled. Tribunals go live, Nuremberg 2.0 streams executions of traitors. I2s. June 30, 2026 boom. Julian Assange confirms, Hillary Clinton's email to John Podesta proves Obama, Hillary Clinton, Saudi Arabia and Qatar founded ISIS. Julian Assange, 107. Julian Assange has dropped a bombshell confirmation that is rocking the foundations of the corrupt Washington establishment. The WikiLeaks founder pointed to a critical email Hillary Clinton sent to John Podesta that exposes the shocking truth: Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar were directly behind the founding and funding of ISIS. In the email, Clinton revealed that the governments of Saudi Arabia and Qatar, not just rogue individuals, provided the massive funding for the terrorist group. Assange called this one of the most important emails in the entire collection, highlighting how the Obama regime knew exactly what was happening. This was no mistake but a calculated strategy to create endless conflict for profit and control. During Clinton's tenure as Secretary of State, the Obama administration pushed through the largest arms deal in history with Saudi Arabia, totaling over $80 billion. These arms flowed to ISIS operatives as huge donations simultaneously filled the coffers of the Clinton Foundation from these same terror-sponsoring nations. The treasonous connections run deep and expose a global cabal operating above the law. Now in 2026, with the Great Awakening gaining unstoppable momentum, These revelations are surfacing at a critical time. Patriots have long understood that ISIS was a deep state creation designed to destabilize the Middle East, justify military spending, and advance the New World Order agenda. Obama and Clinton's role in birthing this monster. The time for justice has arrived. As White Hat operations continue to dismantle the satanic network, the full scope of this betrayal is being laid bare for all to see. QAnons and truth warriors must spread this information rapidly. The storm is upon us, and the deep state is crumbling under the weight of its own crimes. Trust the plan as the light exposes every dark secret and brings the guilty to account.
Hello, Patriots. So good news, Judy is okay and was able to get a report out today. And I'm not sure if her computer issues are resolved, but I'm glad that she's okay. So I am at Restored Republic via a GCR update compiled by Judy Byington. Welcome to the Golden Age of America. Prepare for the greatest wealth transfer and human liberation in history. Gather food essentials for 3 weeks of communication darkness and exposure of long-held secrets, like Biden executed by firing squad in 2019, replaced by body doubles, actors, clones controlled by Obama, Clinton, Soros. Quote from President Donald J. Trump, "We are the ones who are carrying forward the light of Western civilization, because this is the very beginning of the golden age of America." Judy note, welcome to the golden age of America. Do not panic when the system goes offline. It would be done in literal preparation for the greatest wealth transfer and liberation in human history. Saying plus the CIA plus mainstream media plus Obama plus Democratic Party plus Chinese Communist Party have been working together for years to destroy America from within. To save America, Trump was mega chess moves ahead and formed the global military alliance to work with the BRICS nations and make mass arrests of the bad guys. Do a gold asset-backed global currency reset of 209 nations, take back the Satan worshippers' money supply and give it back to the people. Apparently, Barack Obama, a foreign Muslim asset grandson of Hitler, used the CIA, mainstream media, Chinese Communist Party, Democrat Party, and their control of U.S. taxpayer monies to infiltrate our highest level of government as president with his fake birth certificate and fake transgender wife, created a fake family, all for the purpose of destroying our nation from within. They have controlled the money. They have controlled the world, and they've been doing it for 250 years. Contacts inside the Treasury Department say that what's happening right now with the global currency reset was the biggest financial restructuring since 1913. The Rothschild family did not just build a bank. They built a financial empire that controlled every major economy on earth, from the Federal Reserve to the Bank of England to the European Central Bank. The same bloodline pulled the strings. In 1815, Nathan Rothschild made a fortune betting against Britain during the Napoleonic Wars. He knew the outcome first, $250 million in a single day. How? A network of spies across Europe, information the public didn't have. That was 209 years ago. Today, the Rothschilds still have the same advantage. They know what's coming before it happens. They control the interest rates. They control the currency supply. They control inflation and deflation. They engineer recessions and booms. They decide which nations rise and which nations fall. The Federal Reserve? Not a government agency. It's a private bank controlled by the same families. The shareholders, Rothschild, Rockefeller, Morgan, Warburg. Every war in 200 years. Rothschild banks, both sides, they profit from everything because they control the money supply. Trump knew everything before he ran for office. That's why he's been talking about the Federal Reserve. That's why he's been pushing for audits. That's why the deep state was panicking. On July 5th, 2026, Trump, as part of America's massive 250-year celebration, was preparing to make a financial announcement that would shake the world, or change the world, a complete restructuring of the global financial system. The Nasara-Jasara protocols were being activated. The global-backed currency was on its way. The interest-based slavery system was ending. The Rothschild dynasty's 250-year reign was collapsing. That's why the media was silent. That's why the banks were quiet. That's why the elites were desperate. Because once Americans understood that their entire financial system has been designed to enslave them, that every dollar they earned was worthless because of artificial inflation created by private bankers, the system collapses. That very collapse was occurring this week with the downfall of the fiat currency SWIFT system. As of Sunday, June 28, 2026, all financial messages can no longer go through the Illuminati deep state fiat currency SWIFT system. They must be sent in the gold asset-backed ISO 20022 format of the new global quantum financial system. This impacted over 11,000 banks in over 200 countries and $5 to $7 trillion transactions every day. On that same Sunday, June 28th, we saw full implementation of the global currency reset of 209 nations to gold asset-backed currency that traded at a 1-to-1 to each other. There's already been a takeover of the fake news mainstream media by the Starlink satellite system. The live switchover expected to be shown to the public by Thursday, July 1st, 2026. Starlink, which was managed by the United States Space Force, will eliminate outdated infrastructures, providing us with free energy, revolutionary med beds, a transparent voting system, and the long-awaited gold asset-backed currency in the new quantum financial system. As stated, the cabal's financial network was based on their intent.
You see, during the NOV 2020 election tabulation, the U.S. military ran programs in tandem with the fraudulent Dominion machines that proved President Trump had won the 2020 presidential election by an over 80% vote. President Trump then instigated the Insurrection Act and turned over control of the country to the U.S. military. An interim military U.S. government has been running our country ever since. The two U.S. governments. 1. A legitimate interim military U.S. government empowered by the Constitution and the Department of Defense under Military Code 11.3. And 2. An illegal, fraudulent foreign paid-for, foreign controlled on the foreign ground of the District of Columbia, Biden administration. By July 2019, U.S. Marines had combined with Navy SEALs found in underground tunnels beneath China Lake Naval Facility in Southern California. These special forces from underground tunnels across the globe. As of this writing, they were actively discovering even more while blowing up the tunnel system and causing minor earthquakes. 29 Aug. 2020 from underground tunnels, 12,160 social network on 20 deck. 2020, President Trump was informed of tunnels buried 2 miles beneath Capitol Hill, and his sidekick Maxwell had given up maps of the global tunnel system, a major income producer for the cabal Illuminati. Then they cleared out the Vatican of cash, gold, and valuables in 650 plane loads, and flew it to Fort Knox and other U.S. Treasury locations. Ward continued. /politics/2020/09/ Vatican pedophile network closed as gold repatriated to US Treasury, 3,213,118. HTML. BISAT 17 April, the military RV security teams and quantum financial system tech personnel had revamped the London financial and forex system. On Sun, 18 April, cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin markets crashed. Bitcoin was headquartered, along with under the Chinese Communist Party's Three Gorges Dam. On Moan. 19 April, scores of U.S. Treasury employees serving the cabal were arrested. As many as 100, and likely more, were caught red-handed in a scheme to fund the next CV-19 stimulus, stop the global currency reset, and keep on printing fiat dollars. Since Moan. 19 April, market opening, all international markets, including the U.S. stock market and dollar index, were in the red and imploding, although at times the figures snuck up to green. As of WED 21 April 2021, the Illuminati cabal-owned Fed, IRS, and World Bank have been deprived of accessing their passcodes, couldn't transfer funds through their online system, and thus were considered broke. The Federal Reserve, IRS, and World Bank have been locked out of their accounts, with the passwords changed. They can no longer transfer monies. Despite a Trump executive order that made it unlawful for any more printing of the fiat U.S. dollar, The Biden administration continued the practice at the defunct Federal Reserve Bank. Just a few days ago, the U.S. interim military government took charge and arrested over 100 members of the cabal. The alliance, or White Hats, was composed of President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin, Chinese President Xi Jinping, Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi, India Prime Minister Narendra Modi, White Hats in the Department of Defense headed by Secretary of Defense Chris Miller, Undersecretary of Defense Intel Ezra Cohen Watnick, and Gen. Michael T. Flynn. Q Force, composed of around 800 special ops who advise President Trump, including Pentagon Generals Chairman Joint Chief Mark Milley, Vice Chief John Hyten, Gen. James McConville, Adam Michael Gilday, Gen. CQ Brown, Gen. Paul Nakasone, and Gen. J. Raymond. QAnons, volunteer patriots headed by Ezra Cohen Watnick, General Flynn, and J.F. Kennedy Jr. Who is Q? The National Security Agency headed by our present acting U.S. President Richard Grenell, who, with the U.S. under martial law, was running military operations in Washington, D.C. and various militaries across the globe, including the international force authorized to make arrests in any country. What we thought we knew, but didn't really know, and now are supposed to know, but don't have a clue. With clones, doubles, made-up movies Hollywood style, and Trump's military alliance throwing more popcorn at us, it gets so confusing. Fry. 26 June 2026, Fox News. Former CIA Director John Brennan is a traitor who belongs in prison for his role in the Russia collusion coup, using foreign allies to spy on Trump and his campaign, and doing Obama's dirty work, directing his CIA to write up a new ICA with fabricated intel to frame Trump. Brennan even signed the visas for half of the terrorists that crashed the planes into the Twin Towers on 9/11 when he was station chief in Saudi Arabia. Traitors must pay a price and suffer the consequences. Sun. 28 June 2026, Ivar Nobel Prize in Physics. Warming is a scam, climate change is of natural origin. CO2 is very good for plant growth. 26 June 2026, ever since President Trump shut down USAID, the DNC suddenly went broke, while Peru's, Chile's, Bolivia's, Ecuador's, Honduras's, and Colombia's conservative leaders won their elections. Ben Fulford on Telegram. August 2021. Mayorkas goes to the southern border and announces a bunch of USAID-funded programs to improve the lives of the people in Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. We later found out that USAID funds were being used by NGOs to bring people to the border so they could enter our country illegally, all on the American taxpayers' dime. Possible timing. Worldwide events scheduled. 3 Jan. 2024 Level 9, above Presidential, Mission Operation Reset Alpha started classified. Dismantle the old financial system in 72 HOURS Mon. 22 June 2026 Protocol Quantum Finance activated. Connected to XRP Ledger, Blockchain Audit, ISO 20022 Implementation. Immediate Sun. 28 June 2026 Banking Reset Protocol initiated. All fiat transactions halted. New quantum system activated. On WED 1 July 2026 EBS activates. A blackout and lockdown will be global in all countries of the world. It will last 10 to 12 days when everyone will be asked to stay at home during a specific 5-hour window. Worldwide curfew in effect. Citizen movements restricted between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. Compliance mandatory. Monitored by SAT Grid. Global Military Alliance will be on the streets making mass arrests of the corrupt pedophile drug to ensure order as final elements are neutralized. Power grid transfer begins. Nuclear and Tesla-based systems phase in. Select cities experience planned blackouts for system integration. The SWIFT system replaced. On Thursday, 2 July 2026, global media switchover. Old streams terminated. New QFS secured broadcasts begin airing truth sessions. Censorship structures dismantled. The pharmaceutical empire collapses as frequency medicine proves superior in every way. Fry, 3, Sat 4 Sun. 5 July 2026, the reveal. Pre-recorded presidential message broadcasts globally. Confirms restoration of constitutional republic. We took back the world. Announcement of the Global Restoration Plan. Every citizen will receive information about the new economic and legal structures. The pharmaceutical empire collapses as frequency medicine proves superior in every way. On SAT. 4 July 2026, Trump's independence event unveils QFS rebirth. NESARA-GSARA funds expand centers. The beginning of the international tribunals to address crimes against humanity. Major revelations will be broadcast worldwide. Sun. 5 July 2026, final stages of the transition to the new financial system completed. People will begin to access their revalued currencies and debt relief programs. Moan. 6 July 2026, a new era of freedom and prosperity officially begins. Twos. 7 July 2026, the absolute revaluation RV comes fully alive. Debt jubilee activations begin for those whose accounts were cleared. Law enforcement shifts completely to natural law protections. Wed 8 July 2026, the unveiling of hidden technologies. Free energy and suppressed medical advancements are officially released to the public domain. No more scarcity. Thurs. 9 July 2026, global celebration protocols enabled. Local communities organize freedom assemblies to distribute the first wave of restoration funds. Twos. 14 July 2026, the transition begins. Your bank account won't disappear. Your money won't vanish. But the system that enslaved you will be dead. The Federal Reserve, finished. The IRS, finished. The old financial order.
Monday, June 29th, the missing half of the U.S. national debt has been identified. Edward Snowden on Telegram. The Federal Reserve confirms the U.S. Congress has built the single largest racket empire on the planet. U.S. NGOs have combined assets totaling $14.2 trillion of your tax money. India's and Japan's GDPs are each just over $4 trillion. Germany's is $5 trillion. And together they total about $13.5 trillion. Guess what? The combined assets of U.S. NGOs equals $14.2 trillion of your tax money, and that of your children, grandchildren, and great-great-great-great-grandchildren. In other words, the root of all corruption, the racket. U.S. Congress has racketed half the U.S. national debt to the planet's most profitable organization.
28 June 2026, Lincoln, GARFILD, McKinley, and JFK killed by lone GUNMEN. They were eliminated by the Federal Reserve, the banking cartel, the shadow government controlling America's money. Mr. Poole, final chapter on Telegram, 4 presidents assassinated, 4 lone gunmen, 4 investigations, random act, disturbed individual, no conspiracy. But the pattern is undeniable. It terrifies the people in power. All 4 presidents shared one critical action in the months before their death. They challenged the private banking system's control over American currency. They threatened the money monopoly. And they paid with their lives. Lincoln issued greenbacks, government-printed debt-free currency that bypassed private banks, threatened the banking cartel's profits. Shot in 1865 by John Wilkes Booth. Official story, lone gunman. Truth, execution order. Garfield declared intention to reform monetary policy and break the Federal Reserve's. Official story, lone gunman. Truth, assassination. McKinley refused to surrender American currency to private bankers. Shot in 1901. Official story, lone gunman. Truth, elimination. Kennedy, Executive Order 11,110. Silverback Treasury notes without Federal Reserve. Creating debt-free currency. Taking power from banking cartel. Shot in 1963. Official story, lone gunman. Truth, coup d'etat. I have been told by contacts inside intelligence that Kennedy files contain evidence of banking cartel involvement. Declassifications coming. Andrew Jackson survived 2 assassination attempts. Both pistols misfired. He did. only president to pay off national debt to zero. They put him on the $20 bill as mockery. Pattern extends beyond America. Every leader attempting sovereign debt-free currency was removed. Gaddafi, gold-backed African currency, freed 54 nations from dollar dependency. Overthrown 2011. Saddam sold oil in euros. Invaded 2003. This is Operation Currency Control. Banking cartel maintains monopoly through elimination. Anyone threatening the money system is removed. Method changes, bullets, bombs, revolutions trigger is always the same. Threatening monetary sovereignty. It's not about politics, not about ideology. Leaders of every political type are tolerated as long as they don't touch the money. Print debt. This is the one rule, the only rule. Trump understands this. Trump is challenging the Federal Reserve. Trump is threatening the banking cartel. The declassifications are coming. The truth will be exposed. 4 July 2026 at 03:47 a.m. the Federal Reserve Building was to go dark. The same building where Janet Yellen signed Protocol Finance 7 on March 15, 2024, where they hid $847 trillion in offshore accounts, where they planned to collapse the dollar by Sept 2026. But something went wrong for them. On 28 June 2026, Kevin Warsh walked into the Eccles building as the new chairman. He brought 3 folders. Folder 1, Operation Reset Alpha started. January 3, 2024 classified. Level 9 above presidential mission. Dismantle the old financial system in 72 HOURS Folder 2. Protocol Quantum Finance activated. June 22, 2026 connected to XRP Ledger, Blockchain Audit, ISO 20022 Implementation. Immediate Folder 3. Executive Declassification Order 2020-689 signed. July 1, 2026 content. Everything about the Federal Reserve's crimes distribution. Global, unredacted, no escape. Here's what's happening right now. On July 2, 2026, the SWIFT system will be REPLACED. Not reformed, not updated. REPLACED. $340 billion already transferred to the new system. 47 officials already in military custody at undisclosed locations. 12 CONTRIS already signed the agreement you weren't told. The media is silent because they're part of it. Level 9. Protocol Quantum Finance. Operation Reset Alpha. Mockingbird complete. Executive Order 14,411. Executive Declassification Order 2020-689. Kevin Warsh. Bill Pult. Tulsi Gabbard. Elon Musk. They're not fighting each other. They're fighting for you. July 4, 2026, Independence Day takes on new meaning. July 7, 2026, the announcement. July 14, 2026, the transition begins. Your bank account won't disappear. Your money won't vanish, but the system that enslaved you will be dead. The Federal Reserve, finished. The IRS, finished. The old financial Guru Information and Intel, KSAT. 27 June 2026 breaking. EPSDEIN FILES confirm BIDEN was EXECUTED by firing squad in 2019. Body double installed. Global elites secretly controlled the White House for years. And the deep state's DARKESD secret is now blowing wide open in 2026. Juan O'Savin on Telegram. Patriots, hold onto your hats. The storm arrived full force on an explosive February 15, 2026. The freshly unleashed Epstein files under President Trump's Epstein Files Transparency Act, dropped November 19, 2025, are dropping nuclear bombs on the cabal. Another Democrat USAID money laundering scandal exposed. QFS MedBeds live on Telegram. Kamala Harris gave a $800 million contract to a company to see why foreigners want to come to America. Before getting the contract, the company had pleaded guilty to a $500 million bribery scheme. Democrats sent the money out through USAID. The CEO was labeled a known con by the investigation team prior to getting the contract from Kamala Harris. The Democrat Party is a money-laundering criminal organization. It's actually worse than you think. The company and CEO was deeply involved in a decade-long bribery scheme with USAID contracting officer Roderick Watson and others. They secured over $550 million in contracts through bribes. Walter Barnes pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit bribery and securities fraud. The companies Aprio and Vistant admitted criminal liability via deferred prosecution agreements and paid relatively small settlements of only $500K and $100K. Imagine paying only these small fines for stealing hundreds of millions of dollars. Democrats are so corrupt. They're all in on it. The Biden illusion. Trump drops classified proof. Deep State used ACTORS, CLONES, and holograms to fake a presidency. Pentagon insider on Telegram President Trump has just dropped what he describes as undeniable proof. Joe Biden was never truly in control. From day one, the American public was, according to this narrative, guided by a carefully constructed illusion built on doubles, digital projections, and advanced technologies. What is being presented now is framed as the end of that illusion and the beginning of accountability. This is not being described as a simple decline or weakness. The claim goes much further, that what the world saw as Joe Biden was not a single consistent figure, but part of a controlled system designed to maintain the appearance of leadership. According to this narrative, power remained elsewhere, while the image presented to the public was carefully managed. The argument suggests that what appeared to be a functioning administration was, in reality, a layered structure made up of stand-ins, digital manipulation, and controlled public appearances. Supporters of this theory point to various moments over the years that raised questions: unusual gestures, inconsistent behavior, and changes in appearance that, in their view, did not align with a normal public figure. Those who followed this narrative closely argue that the signs were always there. They reference differences in facial features, shifts in expression, and irregular movements that seemed out of place. While critics dismissed these observations as coincidence or overanalysis, others saw a consistent pattern forming over time. According to this perspective, the reasoning behind such an operation would be control. If a real and stable leadership image could not be maintained, then an artificial one could be created instead. A visible figure to maintain continuity, sign documents, and appear in public, while the real decision-making remained hidden. In this view, perception became more important than reality itself. For those who believed this from the beginning, this moment is seen as validation. For others, it remains an unproven and highly controversial claim. The divide between these positions reflects something deeper, a growing gap in trust between institutions and the public, where even the most visible aspects of leadership are being questioned. If claims like these were ever proven, the implications would be enormous. Questions would arise about legitimacy, decision-making, and the authenticity of political processes over the past years. However, it is important to state clearly that these claims remain unverified and are not confirmed by official sources. In the end, this is no longer just about one individual. It is about perception, control, and the nature of truth itself. Whether accepted or rejected, narratives like this show how far public trust has shifted. When that trust breaks, every version of reality starts to feel Mike Bentz brings the recipes and documents showing U.S. government uses our tax dollars to protect George Soros. Carolyn Bessette Kennedy on Telegram. George Soros worked side by side with the U.S. State Department, USAID, and even our intelligence agencies, CIA, to funnel money to his NGO's. Additional CIA involvement with George Soros' example. A 2017 Heritage Foundation report noted that during the Barack Obama administration, USAID collaborated with George Soros-funded groups to promote progressive policies abroad, such as gay transgender rights and drug decriminalization. A 1993 Soros Foundation's report also mentioned a cooperative agreement with USAID for a management training program. A Lithuanian newspaper called Respublika was the second largest daily at the time. It ran a multi-day series attacking George Soros, his Open Society Fund in Lithuania, and local NGOs and think tanks receiving its funding. The articles portrayed Soros as a billionaire meddler with CIA ties, seeking to undermine political stability via civil society groups. They also targeted Lithuanian President Valdas Adamkus and others linked to these NGOs. George Soros uses the money he gets from USAID to create political instability and take over government. Mass arrests. They told you the Epstein files were released. They lied. What was released is 40%. The other 60%, the part with American names, is being used right now for something they will never tell you on television. Ben Fulford on Telegram, Prince Andrew, ARRESTED. Not questioned. ARRESTED. Cuffed in his own residence on June 14, released on bail. Media buried it within 6 hours. Peter Mandelson, British ambassador to the US, ARRESTED by Scotland Yard, stripped of title, under investigation for espionage. Thorbjorn Jagland, former Prime Minister of Norway, criminally charged. 3 countries, 3 arrests, 2 weeks. And the American names haven't even started. I have the list. 217 names, not the public one. The SCALED one. The one Kash Patel handed to Trump on June 8 in a meeting that lasted 47 minutes at Mar-a-Lago. No phones allowed. No staff. Just the 2 of them and a folder marked Black Book Final. What's in that folder? 14 sitting U.S. senators, both parties' 3 former cabinet members, Clinton and Obama-era 6 CEOs of companies you use every day, 2 Supreme Court clerks who are now federal judges, one name so big that when it drops, the stock market will lose 2,000 points in 90 minutes. Leon Black testifies, June 26. But not publicly, behind closed doors. Because what he knows about the financial network, the $3.2 billion laundered through 14 offshore trusts, connects to people who are still in power. Alan Dershowitz, July 9. He's not testifying. He's NEGOTATNG. Full cooperation in exchange for immunity. He has video evidence from the island that names 4 people currently serving in government. The DOJ said they released every document required. CBS found the GAPS. 412 pages missing. Not redacted, missing. Pulled from the files between May 30 and June 2 by someone inside the DOJ who is now under FBI surveillance. Trump knows. He's known since January. The arrests are SCQ and CED. Foreign first, then corporate, then political. Then the one at the top that nobody expects, July 4th. The final name drops on Independence Day, not because of symbolism, because by then, every escape route will be SCALED. Every passport flagged, every account frozen. This isn't justice delayed. This is justice engineered, precise, methodical, inescapable. The children they destroyed are now the witnesses who will destroy them. BLACKBOK 217 SCALED sequence for NCORP Paul, July 4 final name, no deals, no plea bargains, no quiet resignations. TRIBUNALS. If you are too intimidated to read the Q drops, I read them all for you. American breaking news on Telegram. The main allegation is that the Obama admin intentionally gave U.S. uranium to North Korea, Iran, and Syria via Uranium One and the Iran deal, with intention to start a global nuclear war, and everything the Dems have been doing since Trump came down the escalator was to cover up this crime, along with all the other crimes they have committed. Seems relevant. You can grasp the main body of the Q thesis in these 2 drops below. The first drop describes the travel path of the uranium from Uranium 1 U1. It went from the US to Canada to Europe and Asia, and then Q alleges from there it went to both Iran and North Korea. Q alleges that the Dems never thought they would have to worry about getting caught because they assumed Hillary would win 2016. The reference to sum of all fears indicates that the Obama admin intended to use the nuclear weapon in order to set off a war and coerce the U.S. mill and Russian mill to fight each other. The second drop alleges that some of the uranium from Uranium 1 U1 ended up at an Iranian satellite nuclear facility in Syria, and their plan was to strike Israel. But Q also reminds us that this nuclear material is traceable, which is why the US securing the uranium in Iran right now is so important, and why I have been pushing this point so hard. So if you want to know the big secret, there it is. Q is a set of coded messages released by the US MIL-DOE that reveals that the Obama admin gave nuclear weapons to our adversaries, and everything we have witnessed over the last 10 years else revolves around this situation. If you don't think it's real, then why is Trump securing all the rogue nuclear programs around the world? The world's media is preparing for Disclosure Day, a huge event that will expose the principles of GESARA, the greatest wealth transfer in human history, and the basis for a new global economic system. Tier 4B ISO 20022. On Telegram, the countdown will speed up, and the world will stop for a moment. Power systems around the world will be reset in a coordinated effort to incorporate the new Starlink satellite internet, a giant leap into the future. Starlink, managed by the United States Space Force, will eliminate outdated infrastructures, providing us with free energy, revolutionary med beds, a transparent voting system, and the long-awaited quantum ISO coins. Testing is already underway. This revolutionary technology is ready, and the initial signs are small-scale shutdowns in Israel and many other countries. Be prepared to glide into an age of innovation and global prosperity. A journalist leaked 11.5 million documents proving the elites, politicians, and celebrities were using offshore entities as tax havens to launder money and to hide assets. Martial law on Telegram, the woman who leaked it was named Daphne Caruana Galizia. She was killed by a car bomb near her home. Remember 10 years ago when the Panama Papers came out and confirmed that elites use offshore bank accounts and shell companies to move their money around and pay as close to zero in taxes as they possibly can. And all that happened was the journalist that leaked it all got assassinated. Here, what happened? A massive leak of 11.5 million documents, 2.6 plus terabytes, from Mossack Fonseca, a Panamanian law firm specializing in offshore shell companies. It exposed wealthy elites, politicians, celebrities, and criminals used offshore entities in tax havens. Panama, British Virgin Islands, Cayman Islands, and more to hide assets, move money secretly, avoid taxes, launder funds, and dodge sanctions. It involved 214,000 plus offshore entities, touching people in 200 plus countries. Named 12 current and former world leaders, 128 plus other politicians and public officials, plus businessmen, athletes, and more. Almost all powerful figures faced little to no personal consequences. Exposing crimes means nothing if no one.
Major plasma just ejected off of the sun, directed right at Earth. And this comes as the San Andreas fault zone has been bracketed by pretty significant earthquakes. So we saw a 5.6 in Northern California, and then a 5.6 in the Cascadia fault zone, and now a 6.0 down in the Gulf of California. So it's bracketed now. Of course, we had the 7.2 and the 7.8 in Venezuela, which is south. So this energy is transferring into California. So like I predicted, we're looking at a very significant earthquake. We may see one as early as tomorrow in the Southern California, LA area. And then perhaps that could be the big one, or it could lead to a big one in the San Francisco area. So we'll look at the fault zone and how it's been bracketed, and how this usually, it narrows down and it just boom, then a big one comes in. All right. So like I predicted, we would see, I predicted this last year before coming into this year, my yearly predictions, that we would see snow all the way up to the summer. And sure enough, we have. And then I predicted that we would have, in the middle part of America, drought and high temperatures, which we're going to start having probably tomorrow. And this is going to lead to, obviously, some problems for a lot of people. Of course, America has air conditioners, unlike Europe, and the Europeans are finding out. They're here for the FIFA, World Challenge, World Cup, the soccer, and it's like, not like American football, but it is football to Europeans, and we like it. We're winning. We're doing good stuff. So we'll play their game and beat them at it. As I've done as a Navy SEAL, and then when I was in the CIA, we would have the Europeans would challenge us to shooting matches, and they would get destroyed. Right. So I think that what we're going to see is a lightening up when we see these big earthquakes that are going to start to happen. It usually happens when there's a major event like this. I saw it 9/11. Before 9/11 happened, I was in New York, and New Yorkers were not friendly, right? And they're known to not be friendly. And so me and a bunch of SEALs, we were doing a hand-to-hand course in Maryland. So we were going to fly out of New York back to San Diego. And so we had a little time in between. So we walked the streets of New York, like young Navy SEALs will. We like to, move and do stuff and sightsee and, become part of, different cultures. And New York is a different culture, right? Forget about it. And so we were up there, and they weren't friendly at all. And I'd been there a few times before that, exploring Central Park. So not so friendly. And after 9/11, I went back, and everybody's friendly. Everybody's friendly. It's amazing how, events like that will, direct people into becoming more open, more friendly, more loving. And that's probably what we're going to see with California, because California is not friendly. All right. California is not friendly at all. They're corrupted. And I've been talking about that for a little bit now. And so we're going to find out. We're going to find out if Californians will actually become more loving after the earthquakes come. So let's look at some of the things that I've been following. So snow. Now here in Lake Tahoe, a couple of days ago, we had freezing temperatures down in the 30s. Last night, we had close to freezing temperatures in my location. I had to turn the heat on. And that was after being down in Irvine, California, for an event, LifeWave event. And it was, you kind of get used to, an area you're in pretty quick. That's the way I've been, for a long period of time. And so we got used to the warm temperatures. And I guess it was a little cool because Californians were wearing sweat tops and so forth. So I thought it was like, God, it's like, super, super nice. It's warm compared to up here in Lake Tahoe. So we came back to Lake Tahoe. It's cold. And sure enough, we had snowing in Montana. Right. So let's look at that. It's pretty incredible. All the way up to it wasn't summer, because the summer solstice was January 21st, I believe, or June 21st. So let's look at this.
In downtown Billings, where the sidewalks have a little bit of moisture on them from the past 24 hours. But other places around the state are feeling more like winter as snow has fallen and the higher elevations.
Happy end of June, everyone.
Yes, the calendars say summer, but parts of Montana look and feel like something straight out of January.
It is pretty strange, yeah.
With snow coming in bunches, it was enough to make some wonder.
Are there places in the lower 48 where it actually snows on June 29th?
A simple and resounding yes.
This is definitely the latest that I have ever seen the snow happen.
Still, a surprising sight for wildlife photographer Julie Argyle, who has taken pictures like these in Yellowstone National Park since she was a child.
I didn't expect to have, a totally white landscape when I walked out the door.
But the scenery wasn't her only surprise.
Oh, I almost fall down the stairs.
Moments later, she spotted a grizzly lumbering through the fresh snow like a scene straight out of a nature documentary.
Yellowstone's beautiful no matter what season you're in, and you may have winter in July, right?
And it wasn't just Yellowstone.
Yeah, I transitioned really quick from rain to snow, boom, just like that.
Meteorologist Miller Robson captured these videos on Saturday afternoon while traveling the Beartooth Pass with his family.
It was windy, and it was It was quite hairy there for a few minutes anyway.
By Monday, the pass was closed, and yes, more snow was in the forecast.
Yeah, it's not uncommon at this time of the year where we can still see a decent amount of snow up there in the mountains.
Meanwhile, at ski resorts like Bridger Bowl and Big Sky, it looked like a mid-season powder day. Discovery near Anaconda received almost 8 inches of the white stuff, and Dark Horse Lake along the Montana-Idaho state line doubled that at 16 inches. Snow so tempting to play in that neither MTN meteorologist Curtis Grevenance nor his dog could resist.
It's Montana weather. It really is.
Yes, a summer day that had it all, from sun to snow, as we say farewell to June and hello to winter.
I mean, it could be winter.
So, yeah, that's the way it's going to be going forward. Of course, we're still going to have some significant warm days. This is what happens when you have extremes. So you leave one extreme and go into another. So we're going to leave the extreme temperatures. They projected that we would have, it would never snow again. And of course, that was Al Gore, of course. And as you just saw, it's still snowing. There wasn't supposed to be any snow like a decade ago, and everything's supposed to be melted. So now a lot of people, so Ryan Hall says El Nino heading out here. So yes, so we're having a lot of these crazy temperatures. El Nino has been affecting the Europe. And now it's going to start to affect the middle of America. Now, did I know that El Nino was going to form when I had those predictions? No. I just tap into energies and, vortexes and all kind of stuff. And so I just am able to, I just tapped into it over, decades, having been a SEAL and then CIA and, using my remote viewing skills to, go into different, energies and so forth. So this is one of the things that we're going to see going forward. So I think that we're going to see significantly colder weather probably after this year. All right, so let's look at some of the other things that I'm looking at. So we saw the brutal power of summer heat dome over Europe. There was supposedly 1,000 people died just in France alone due to the heat. Of course, they have gone hook, line, and sinker for the Green New Deal. They have, the carbon footprint thing that's been controlled by the elite of Europe, the European Union, and so forth. Now, in the European Union, wherever they have their offices and so forth, they're usually on top floors. So the plebes and the other slaves that are down on the lower floors don't have AC, but the elite on the top floors do have AC. So same stuff, do as I say, not as I do. As we've had these Hollywood elites and so forth jet around in their private jets, burning carbon on a massive scale, and then thumbing their nose at us and pointing their fingers at us and telling us we need to cut back. Well, here in the United States, we say F you, right? We love our AC, and we're going to use it. So, and we love big refrigerators. So they have little tiny refrigerators in Europe. Of course, same thing, small carbon footprint. They have these ridiculously little small washers and dryers. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? Like one shirt at a time. It's like crazy. It's so Europeans, like I said, hook, line, sinker for this Green New Deal. And I've gotten a lot of flack from Europeans, when I talk about, our big freezers and ACs and so forth. And now, like I said, they're here at the FIFA, the World Games, the soccer. I used to play soccer in high school, so I did football, soccer, and I was the fastest guy in my school. So, and I had a big school. It was a big school. So it was interesting. I love soccer. It wasn't gay to me. It was a fun sport. But some people think it's gay because it's not hardcore like football, our American football, right? So anyway, like I said, whatever the sport they come up with, whatever they want to play, we'll master it and beat them at the game. So that's the way Americans roll. All right, so let's look at some of the things. Over 180 million people across the Midwest and Midwest, like I predicted, and East will be under major to extreme heat risk between 100 and 110 degrees locally and skyrocketing up to 115 in some areas. The searing heat will impact major cities like New York, Washington, D.C., and other big cities. So it will be very interesting to see how America deals with the heat compared with Europe. All right. So not really good the way the Europeans handle the heat. All right. So let's look at some of the things that yeah, and that's and the heat deaths and here in America are like non-existent, and gunshot from those people because Europeans can't have guns. I guess they can have shotguns if they get a license to go duck hunting or something, but they don't have guns. They can't have guns. They can't be trusted with guns. A lot of people with those guns, and of course, the Europeans, they're getting slaughtered with knives and guns and whatever the illegal immigrants want to bring. And here in America, they don't mess with us, right? So we got guns. Of course, some of those guns are used to commit suicide and, theft and robberies and, mass shootings and so forth. But still, because they don't have ACs, what a bunch of dorks. And they're so uppity about this. So some people learn the hard way, as you guys know. So let's just make fun of them. How about that? All right, awesome. So yes, sometimes it's just better just make humor out of this. Europeans, I don't know. They'll probably go all in on ACs, and then it's going to start to turn cold for years. So that's usually the way this works, right? All right. So, but don't hesitate, Europeans. Go get those ACs, right? And now let's look at the earthquake activity because I have other shows to do, and so I got to jump on and do this one. I did an earlier show on Iboga, and it is a fantastic show. It was heavily censored. Yes, they came in and tried to shut that down, but it's still a good show. All right, a little bit of glitching that went on, very frustrating, but it is potentially something that could help millions and millions of people here in the United States and the world. Of course, the medical institutions are going to resist that, and that's probably why we had so much resistance for that video. But it is out there. It's on my YouTube and Rumble channel and saved throughout the social media. The links are in the social media throughout 500,000 subscribers that I have. Thank you, everybody. So hopefully we can double that this year over the next year. That'd be great because reaching more people with this information is difficult because there's heavy suppression. So appreciate you guys sharing this, and those of you that continue to come back and resubscribe after they kick you off. Right? So this is one of the things we've had to deal with in the past. It seems like we have a little bit of leeway vice what we had 6 years ago. So here is the earthquakes over the last 7 days here in the United States and down in Venezuela, as you guys can see. So this is the latest one, and there's multiple aftershocks are happening. So a nice 6.0, right? And back up here we had the what was that? The 5.6 in Redwood Valley, and then a couple of days after that, the 5.5 out on that that fault line. That's probably going to Cascadia. That's going to crack and cause a massive tsunami. All right, and then all the way down here, the 6.0, of course, a little bit further over let me take this out just a little bit more. And then we see, of course, the Venezuela, big earthquakes that happen over there. And then some of those transferred, some of the energy transferred out into the Dominican Republic, which had a 5.0, and Guadalupe, which had a 4.7. So the energy is transferring around. Over here, Nicaragua, 5.2, 5.1 off the coast of Central America, and Mexico, 4.9. So the energy's kicking. And if we zoom in a little bit, normally what happens is when you bracket like this, so you had this one on land and this one out in the water, right? They were both about the same, 5.6, 5.5. And then this one down here, which was 6.0. So we had a bracketing right here, and we probably will have another one that will happen if we, take the distance of these two. Somewhere up in the LA area is my best guess because of the terrain and so forth, and the way the San Andreas runs. So as you see through here, so all of these are on the fault zones. So I would say probably LA, maybe upwards of a 7, high 6, maybe low 7. And then San Francisco, maybe 8.2. So these are just my, remote viewing, right? Which is, can change. Nothing is firm on these timelines, right? Consciousness can have an effect on this. They could not happen at all, or they could be a lot lower, or they could be even higher, right? So California's due. We know that 1,000 years worth of buildup coming. It's about ready to erupt. So I've been talking about this for a couple of years now. So we're getting down to the wire. And so Stefan Burns is talking about the energy that just came off the sun. Now, when you have earthquakes like we've been having, and we have a full moon, and we have planetary alignments that are going to pull a lot of energy as well. We have big old Jupiter and Saturn and Uranus, and not my Uranus, your Uranus. I always live through it, but somebody stop me. That's what my wife just said. Somebody stop him. There's no one to stop me. I will continue. All right. So it is fun, right? We always like to have fun. It's, concerning times, of course. You have to trust your intuition. You have to be ready for these events to strike. There's millions and millions and millions, tens of millions of people that live in California, very possibly about to be affected. So my heart and prayers go out to everyone. And I know a lot of you guys have been saying, because I've been putting this out every day for the last several days. So a lot of you are saying that you're praying. That's good. Prayers do have power and will have an effect, like I've talked about in my books and in my courses and in my shows that I've done for the last 10 years, right? So, and now we're coming up to that point where it really starts to impact consciousness and where that consciousness is really centered. How many people are negative and how many people are positive? Now, the positive, fortunately, can sway over a lot of negative, right? But it takes a lot of positive, right? And if we don't have a lot of positive, then we're going to get some cranking, right? So we'll see what happens over the next several days and weeks and months and years, because this is going to continue into next year, right? Next year it gets much bigger, guys. So this is just the foretaste, foreshocking. Foreshocks will come, even if we have the foreshock of a 7.2, 8.2, like I'm predicting we might have. Next year, it will be magnitudes larger. All right, so let's look at what Stefan Burns, really cutting edge, I believe, I've had him on a show. He's magnificent. He's cutting edge, and here he is sharing with us.
We have a pretty big live stream to talk about just a lot of things. We just had a 1.1x flare explode on the sun. We've been waiting for big solar activity. Here it is. We had an R3 radio blackout as a result of this directly over North America. Also, let's look at this. About 8 hours before this 1.1x flare, we actually had a 5.8 M-class flare from 3 different sunspot groups. They all in some way contributed to that total solar flare because we had a sun grazer comet fly into the sun and vaporize in front of those sunspots. In California, it's been a long time. We don't know what would happen now. Now, the building standards are a little better in California, but still, we don't know what would happen if you get a real serious magnitude 7.8, 7.9, 8, 8.1, 8.2. It's all possible. So that's what we have to talk about today. I'm your Stefan Burns, geologist, geophysicist, space weather guy, your cosmic bro. Just trying to understand what's happening. Basically, I have sunspots, which are magnetic vortices. So now you get this surge of charged particles to flow down, and that's going to destabilize sunspots.
So here's this comet that's coming in, and when this comet comes in, it ignites the sunspots. Wow. I wonder if someone has sent that piece in there. I don't know, because it came from nowhere. No one knew anything about it. So that comet came in, it was vaporized by the sun, and then we had this plasma energy that exploded off the sun and is coming at the Earth. All right.
We have a lot of good data on that. That's exactly what we saw with the sun grazer comet. So yesterday I posted on X, Twitter, about the sun grazer before we saw this 5.8 M-class flare. I said, guys, we could very well get that activity to come in as a result. And well, we did. And now we're seeing earthquake activity around.
So as you guys are seeing, this is not prediction. This is looking at the energies that are happening. I look at the consciousness energy. I'm very well informed on that. And I know and I see that consciousness does have an effect on the Earth, does have an effect on conflicts, conflict resolution, loving people, like I talked about after 9/11, before 9/11. So was the consciousness of New Yorkers pulling in that negative thing that happened? Yes. Right. And they didn't have a lot of problems for a very long time because they had that trauma and they overcame that trauma and went very loving. Now, look at New York. They have slipped into something even more extreme with Mamdani and the communists. So more extreme negativity is in New York now, guys. So what do you think is going to happen? All right. So there are, there is there's a church, not a church, but a cathedral that has somebody saw into the future and saw into the vibrations and the consciousness of the future, like I've been doing. But they saw far into the future. And on this cathedral in New York, they put where there was a massive tsunami that came in and was destroying New York. I think that's coming for New York. All right. So same thing, consciousness, negative Earth events. This is not like you're being punished. It's like you are attracting it. So California, if we do have, some serious earthquake activity, you are attracting it. You may have a little help from the deep state. Now, people are asking me, why don't we, stop these people that are doing this activity, from Antarctica? Well, I can tell you that we have had really clear skies here in California. We weren't having them here in Lake Tahoe. It's like daily, just massive, chemtrailing. We haven't had any chemtrails. So look in the sky today. There's no chemtrailing. Hasn't been chemtrailing here for a while. When we were down in Irvine, California, no, chemtrailing, and people were reporting that in California for quite some time. So I've heard and I've seen from people posting. I can't say that it's real, but I have heard that we talk about these earthquakes that are happening here. There's like 3 a days I've heard that are happening down in Antarctica. So the war is on. Now, is it happening? I don't see, because you never see earthquakes in Antarctica. You will see them happening off the coast in the water at 10K down, where we know that they have bases and they have maglev systems and so forth. So we have seen in the waters around Antarctica at 10K some pretty significant earthquakes. Now, were those some of those maglev tubes that were destroyed? Possibly. And are there is there earthquake activity that's going on from the white hats trying to knock the hell out of the black hats and their batty ETs? Yeah, I think so. So there is a war going on, guys. You're not going to hear about it. You're not going to know about it. Wino Savin was down just off the coast of Antarctica on a cruise ship, and they were having conferences and so forth last year. All right, so there are things that are afoot. There is, this war that's going on. Who's going to win? Well, we already know who's going to win. But in the meantime, are other places going to be affected because of this? They're going to shoot energy. I think that's what happened with Venezuela. These events are going to happen, I believe, in California, because there's massive child trafficking rings in California. And it's part of the badness, guys. And you guys that allow these people to come in and continue that process, you see what's been happening. They've been burning your cities, and now they're going to destroy your cities with earthquakes. So this is coming. I don't see any way around it, but maybe you guys wake up and become loving. And do you really think you're going to do that? I don't think so. We haven't seen it. So we're going to see this trauma. Trauma happens, and then people start to look around and say, what can we do to help each other? And that's the way these things work out.
South of California, as a continuation of this seismic wave. Let me show you what's happening there. But before we get to the earthquakes, which we're going to talk more about, let us look at these the X-ray flux. And yeah, we have a comment here from our secret mod, Drew for World Ruler, and yeah. And then if we go forward here, boom, 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 boom.
So here's the plasma coming in, and look where it's coming in. It's coming in between Hawaii and California. So that's where we don't want that energy, but that's where it has come in a big way.
Boom, 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 shakalaka. Right there's our 1.1 X-class flare centered over North America, really centered over the Pacific in between Hawaii and California. But you see all of North America there getting hit by that. And then it lasting for a while at R3 levels before finally dying down right there.
All right. So I know a lot of you are, well, it's died down. Nothing happened. No, it comes in. The energies come in to already extreme energetics that are there, and they power them up, and then it goes to the fault lines, and the fault lines basically give. All right. So we're in this process.
So we're cooking, folks. Right now, we're really starting to cook. And let us now that we've seen this, magnitude 6.0 Baja California. So Again, nothing is guaranteed. We hope for the best. Say prayers, do whatever you need to do. But it's definitely, this is the most critical. Let's say this. It's the most critical it's been in a long time for California. We had actually some pretty critical periods back in January, February for California. That kind of cooled off, thankfully. But then we started seeing new activity in Walker Lane with Nevada, not shown on this map here, but Silver Springs, a whole swarm up there. Down here near Las Vegas, Topana. So Nevada's all woken up, loosened up. That needs to be able to accommodate motion as well. This is a very important area for movement as it relates to California-sized mist.
Yeah, as the California islands are made over the next weeks, months, and years, then Nevada has to be able to shift around, and we've already started to see the shifting of Nevada getting ready for California, basically bunches up to fall into the sea.
And so everything's basically looking ready to go. It's all looking ready to go. Now, if we look at this earthquake for Mexico, we'll see that there's a strike slip quake here. So this is our moment tensor. And you can look, there's two solutions that are generated for a moment tensor. So this first one right here has a strike of 223 degrees, a dip angle of 63. So that's the fault angle, all right? So like if it's 90, then the fault is.
All right. So, more information, more insights from different sources. We're seeing little mega slow slip that is happening in Northern California and Oregon border. Let's look at that also under Seattle. Seattle probably going to go bye-bye as well. Again, a negative city, very negative city, communist city. Oregon, same thing. All right. So I'm just a consciousness guy. I'm just reporting. So will it change? Will it shift? Will the people shift? Will they change? Like they say in New York, forget about it. Right. So not so much of a chance, unfortunately. But who knows? Maybe they'll see some of the devastation and they'll go, well, we're like them. Maybe we should change. Maybe. We'll see.
The elevated slow slip events once again tonight. Look at that. 578 epicenters of slow slip events. Let me refresh this. For whatever reason, they're having an issue with their website. There we go. Mainly underneath the southern end here of the Cascadia subduction zone. Once again, been seeing a lot of comments here stating, oh, this is normal. This is normal. Nothing's going to happen. Well, you know what? Man.
All right. So I was hoping he would go into this. He's going to show you how the greatest minds have basically said that the slow slip leads to bigger events. All right. So it's all adding up, guys. The science is stacking up. The consciousness, the bad consciousness is stacking up.
Don't even know what to say about that. All I know is that each tremor count out here is getting much and much closer to the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake out here, okay? We've seen it. Let's go over here to the slow slip event here. Let's see, right here. I wanted to show you guys, okay? Just these are from, if you look forward to these big-time professionals that have massive degrees in college, Harvard University, Oregon State, you name it, okay? If you don't take my word for it, take their word for it, okay? This is from the Oregon State University here. Slow slip directly triggered seismic slip. We can see that, okay? This is from, not for sure which university, but every Stanford. I'm sorry. I didn't even see that here to the left. This is from Stanford, for crying out loud. Every slow slip event adds stress to the adjacent locked mega thrust zone, bringing it, you guessed it, not further away from a big earthquake, but closer to a failure. That's where we get the big earthquakes happening, folks. Man, it's almost like trying to teach a horse to drink water. I don't know what the phrase is here. You can't convince everyone. You just can't convince everyone.
Can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? So you can lead people to becoming loving and not being jackasses and causing lots of problems and speeding along the highways and trying to run people over and flipping them off and being assholes on the road. But until you get a big earthquake and maybe the earthquake, swallows up their car with them in it, right? So then they find out when they're in, hell or wherever they're going to go. So it is going to come for a lot of people.
Many people think faults with slow slip events are in transitional frictional state. He said they are very close to failing, which would cause a typical earthquake, in this case, a megaquake. But something is holding it back. Something is holding the failure back. What is that? It's pressure. So there's a number of, big time universities out here putting their necks out when it comes to the tremor counts. Tremor counts are occurring way deep underneath the southern end of the Cascadia, very, very closely. Just because of everything happening around the planet, the amount of stress and time that's built up out here, the accumulated slip rate, and really not even a partial rupture out here. So this tells me here that we're definitely looking at a big earthquake out here pretty soon. I feel like, think of this, I'm not going to go out on too much of a personal note, but
all right, he's not going to go out on a limb. He's going to say, stay scientific, leave it to guys like me that look at energy and remote view stuff, look at the timelines. And, I'm seeing stuff, other people seeing stuff that are psychics. So it becomes like, again, nothing's a guarantee, guys. Hopefully, God willing, our consciousness willing, focus in the right direction, enough of us, making an impact. We can, delay this some more, I guess, because I think at some point it's going to come. It doesn't matter. It has to come. Because it has to do a cleanse not only for the earth energies that have been building for a long time with a lot of our negativity, but also the people that are, have come here, but don't see themselves, going further. Right. So it gives them an opportunity to check out. So we're going to see that. We're going to see that on a massive level. We're going to see that in the millions and millions and millions going forward. So that is what happens with consciousness, guys. As we move into higher states of consciousness, those people that are lower consciousness, and there are a lot of them, get an opportunity to go bye-bye, right? So Supreme Court, speaking of bye-bye, Supreme Court sides 5-4 against Republicans to uphold mail-in ballot grace periods. Amy Coney Barrett and who's the other? Who's the other one? Coney Barrett and Roberts. So John Roberts, Justice John Roberts, Justice Amy Coney Barrett. Two baddies, all right? Two baddies. They're supposed to be goodies for us. But they have decided to help destroy America. And so, in my opinion, the justice system's completely all the way up to the Supreme Court. And, they gave Trump a lot of wins, but these were two of the most important. And that is they are giving a 5-day grace period as long as the ballots are mailed on the day of election. So somebody in Pakistan that mails their ballot because they've come here. The other one is the birthright. So they've continued the birthright. Now, the birthright was supposed to be for slaves that were born here in America, and they had a birthright because they're born here, right? So that was a great thing. I think they should do away with it completely because we don't have slaves anymore. So it's bullshit allowing these people to come in and use that against us, because when they come in here and they have, I've seen them in Pakistan. These rich people are like, we're going to America and we're going to, stay for a month, and Sheila is going to have a baby, and then that's going to be our anchor baby, and we're going to go home, and eventually we'll go back when they're older, and we'll be citizens. I'm like, wow, that's really effed up. I'm saying thinking that in my mind, but this is happening by the millions and millions every year, guys. So we're having our country stolen from us by the birthright, bullshit. And President Trump tried to get that stopped, but this corrupt Supreme Court, all the justice system, all the way to the top, completely compromised. Right, has to be completely done away with. And these traitors, Comey Barrett and Roberts, both of them need to go to jail. And I don't know, traitors, maybe even executed. I don't know. So we're done, guys. Our justice system is completely FUBAR, effed up beyond repair. So it's got to go. Same thing with our political system. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe there's going to be a huge earthquake that takes everybody out. That or bad, I don't know. So maybe Washington D.C., a big hole, it's just like cracks open and everything falls down in the hole and it just shuts back. So that would be perfect. Now we're in a position where people can go overseas now. They can be born here and then go back to Pakistan or Cameroon or wherever they're from and vote because they're American citizens now, and send their ballot to the U.S. and decide elections. And in California, they talk about how Pakistanis are doing that by the thousands are, doing mail-in ballots. They've already exposed that in California alone. So how many other states are doing this? Quite a few, guys, right? So according to the Voting Rights Lab, 30 states have mail-in ballots grace periods for at least some voters, immigrants and illegal immigrants, and you name it, have them for all mail-in ballots, while 16 more states have them specifically for military and overseas voters, right? And that's the way it was always supposed to be. If I was here, when I was in the military, I voted. If I was leaving, I was like, it's too much of a pain in the butt. And so I wouldn't vote. But, and it seems like, you have, few, maybe not even a few, you have a few 100,000, maybe, military that will vote. And back in my day, almost everybody in the military was conservative, but not so much anymore. Right. Now they're having classes with, Muslim, freedom for Muslims in the military. It's like, who started that? Right. We never had that for Christians. So now they're doing it for Muslims. So everybody's getting, be kind to Muslims now. And, Muslims don't like dogs, right? They're very fearful of dogs. They're taught as little kids, if you misbehave, we're going to get the stray dogs outside, and they're all terrified of dogs. So in New York, they're talking about doing away with dogs in New York, and in Europe, of course, to appease the Muslims. How about the women that are getting raped by these Muslims? Do they have any say? No. That's being, against the Muslims, and we can't have that. All right. So things are really, really a mess here and in Europe. So we have a long way to go. And who knows, maybe the earth change events will help, get people to the point where they're like, we should just learn to get along. Right. So we'll see. We'll see how that works out. I don't give it much hope. But Supreme Court upholds birthright citizenship. Same thing, same problem, people. Justice Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Neil Gorsuch dissented. And then all the other liberals, 6-3, went with the birthright citizenship under the 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment just needs to go away. Like I said, it's no longer needed, but they're using it. They're manipulating it. So these justices that are using our Constitution against us, that's treason to me, right? It's clear-cut treason. So they all need to go bye-bye, right? All right. Now, how many, take a wild guess, how many service members since 9/11 have died, in wars? U.S. service members that have died. Take a wild guess. In your mind, go, la, 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 la. All right. So up until late 2024, there have been 7,077 U.S. military personnel that have died in connection with operations, right? Since 9/11. That's a lot. That's a lot, right? And that's a tragedy. And I know a lot of people are like, think the military. It wasn't until 9/11 that people never thanked me. I'd be in uniform and they don't care, right? So after Vietnam, if you're a military guy and you're in California like I was, you're not getting laid, right? So, and that's the way it was. So eventually it evened out, and once I became a Navy SEAL, that I had a hot body or something, I don't know. And so women were attracted to me at that point. They forget very quick, and I'm happy about that. So 9/11, never anyone up until 9/11 thanked me for my service. 9/11, I remember I was at the Naval Academy, and I had to wear my uniform. So I went to go pick up my kids from school, and people were coming up to me after 9/11 and saying, "Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service." Kind of like, those people in those buildings in New York that got traumatized, and all of New York got traumatized, and they're like, okay, let's look around and thank the people that are like trying to keep us safe, right? So 7,077, and I never expected people to be thankful. I did it because I'm of service, and I would have still done it regardless of people thanking me. It wasn't until the last few years of my career that people actually thank me, and then people still thank me today for my service, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that service members are recognized now. Now, taking that into mind, 7,077 have died from suicide, veteran suicide since September 11th. Double that, because we know that there's a lot of veterans committing suicide. How many would you say commit suicide every day? I would tell you the number's been rising. It hasn't been going down. So today, the number of veterans that are committing suicide every single day is 24. 24. And that's 1.2 times more than the average, civilian death rate from suicide, right? Now, how many veterans do you think have committed suicide since 9/11? All right. According to Operation Deep Dive, in the end of 2024, there have been 360,000 and counting deaths, veteran suicide deaths. That's a lot more than 7,077. It's a lot more, right? So that show that I just did for iboga is, so that was a good guess. They're fabulous, right? Fabulous spoils. 1 million. So that was up there. So good. You're like thinking big numbers. That's good. So somebody said 444. Yeah, not so much every day. That's, you just do the math. That's quite a bit more than that per year. So, or no, it's 444. Okay, that's what you said. Okay, I got you. All right, not 444. So see where my mind's at. I'm talking about something. You guys are throwing like, it's 444. So it's good because that's the angelic number. So that show that I did today, guys, really watch that. That is potential. Now, President Trump wants to bring in, and he's been on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan's been talking about, and a lot of us been talking about ibogaine, but iboga has like 20 times more alkaline products than ibogaine is part of iboga, right? So listen to that show. Iboga is definitely the way to go, and it would have a much more positive effect. All right. Yeah, I know, Fabulous. It's like you can't even imagine, right? That many. All right. So stay in the love vibration, especially you guys in California, and everybody say prayers for the Cali people. They definitely need it, and the New Yorkers. All right. I don't think New York's going to get it yet, but they're going to get it. All right. Probably next year. So this, like I said, is beginning. We'll see something big this year, but next year is going to be a lot bigger and more widespread. All right. Lots of love. We'll see you guys next time.
Restored Republic via GCR. Judy note: to save America, Trump was mega chess moves ahead and formed the global military alliance to work with the BRICS nations and make mass arrests of the bad guys, do a gold/asset-backed global currency reset of 209 nations, take back the Satan worshippers' money supply and give it back to the people. Apparently Barack Obama, a foreign Muslim asset grandson of Hitler, used the CIA, mainstream media, Chinese Communist Party, Democrat Party and their control of U.S. taxpayer monies to infiltrate our highest level of government as president with his fake birth certificate and fake transgender wife, and created a fake family, all for the purpose of destroying our nation from within. They have controlled the money. They have controlled the world, and they've been doing it for 250 years. Contacts inside the Treasury Department say that what's happening right now with the global currency reset was the biggest financial restructuring since 1913. The Rothschild family didn't just build a bank. They built a financial empire that controlled every major economy on Earth. From the Federal Reserve to the Bank of England to the European Central Bank, the same bloodline pulled the strings. In 1815, Nathan Rothschild made a fortune betting against Britain during the Napoleonic Wars. He knew the outcome first. $250 million in a single day. How? A network of spies across Europe. Information the public didn't have. That was 209 years ago. Today, the Rothschilds still had that same advantage. They know what's coming before it happens. They control the interest rates. They control the currency supply. They control inflation and deflation. They engineer recessions and booms. They decide which nations rise and which nations fall. The Federal Reserve. Not a government agency. It's a private bank controlled by the same families. The shareholders. Rothschild, Rockefeller, Morgan, Warburg. The same names. The same bloodline. Every war in 200 years. Rothschild banks. Both sides. They profit from everything because they control the money supply. Trump knew everything before he ran for office. That's why he's been talking about the Federal Reserve. That's why he's been pushing for audits. That's why the deep state was panicking. On July 5, 2026, Trump, as part of America's massive 250-year celebration, was preparing to make a financial announcement that would change the world, a complete restructuring of the global financial system. The NISARA/JASARA protocols were being activated. The gold-backed currency was on its way. The interest-based slavery system was ending. The Rothschild dynasty's 250-year reign was collapsing. That's why the media was silent. That's why the banks were quiet. That's why the elites were desperate. Because once Americans understood that their entire financial system has been designed to enslave them, that every dollar they earned was worthless because of artificial inflation created by private bankers, the system collapses. That very collapse was occurring this week with the downfall of the fiat currency SWIFT system. As of Sunday, June 28, 2026, all financial messages could no longer go through the Illuminati deep state fiat currency SWIFT system. They must be sent in the gold/asset-backed ISO 20022 format of the new global quantum financial system. This impacted over 11,000 banks in over 200 countries and $5 to $7 trillion transactions every day. On that same Sunday, June 28, 2026, we saw full implementation of the global currency reset of 209 nations to gold/asset-backed currency that traded at a 1-to-1 to each other. There has already been a takeover of the fake news mainstream media by the Starlink satellite system, the live switchover expected to be shown to the public by Thursday, July 1, 2026. On Monday, 19th of April, scores of U.S. Treasury employees serving the cabal were arrested. As many as 100 and likely more were caught red-handed in a scheme to fund the next COVID-19 stimulus, stop the global currency reset and keep on printing fiat dollars. Since Monday, 19th of April market opening, all international markets, including the U.S. stock market and dollar index, were in the red and imploding, although at times the figures snuck up to green. As of Wednesday, April 21, 2021, the Illuminati/cabal-owned Fed, IRS and World Bank have been deprived of accessing their passcodes, couldn't transfer funds through their online system, and thus were considered broke. The Federal Reserve, IRS and World Bank have been locked out of their accounts, with the passwords changed. They can no longer transfer monies. Despite a Trump executive order that made it unlawful for any more printing of the fiat U.S. dollar, the Biden administration continued the practice at the defunct Federal Reserve Bank. Just a few days ago, the U.S. interim military government took charge and arrested over 100 members of the cabal. The alliance, or White Hats, was composed of President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin, Chinese President Xi Jinping, Iraqi Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi, India Prime Minister Narendra Modi. White Hats in the Department of Defense headed by Secretary of Defense Chris Miller, Undersecretary of Defense Intel Ezra Cohen-Watnick, and General Michael T. Flynn, Q-Force, composed of around 800 special ops who advise President Trump, including Pentagon Generals Chairman Joint Chief Mark Milley, Vice Chief John Hyden, General James McConville, Admiral Michael Gilday, General C.Q. Brown, General Paul Nakasone, and General J. Raymond, Quanons, volunteer patriots headed by Ezra Cohen-Watnick, General Flynn, and J.F. Kennedy Jr., who is Q, the National Security Agency headed by our present acting U.S. President Richard Grenell, who, with the U.S. under martial law, was running military operations in Washington, D.C. and various militaries across the globe, including the international force authorized to make arrests in any country, Interpol. A Saturday, June 27, 2026, Caitlin Hunter/Janine Larrick update. Judy note: Janine Larrick was in the Ohio Guernsey County Jail. The intention of Ohio authorities appeared to be to prevent Janine from testifying. Friday, June 26, 2026, John Brennan is a traitor who belongs in prison for his role in the Russia collusion coup, using foreign allies to spy on Trump and his campaign, and doing Obama's dirty work, directing his CIA to write up a new ECO with fabricated intel to frame Trump. Brennan even signed the visas for half of the terrorists that crashed the planes into the Twin Towers on September 11 when he was stationed chief in Saudi Arabia. Traitors must pay a price and suffer the consequences. Sunday, June 28, 2026, Evarji Ever, Nobel Prize in Physics, Global Warming is a Scam, Climate Change is of Natural Origin. CO2 is very good for plant growth. It's nothing more than another hoax by the elite, with the complicit execution of their governmental and media lackeys. The hoax exposed, the emergency lies with the perverse elite in reducing the population. Friday, June 26, 2026, ever since President Trump shut down USAID, the DNC suddenly went broke, while Peru's, Chile's, Bolivia's, Ecuador's, Honduras's and Colombia's conservative leaders won their elections. Ben Fulford on Telegram. August 2021. Mayorkas goes to the southern border and announces a bunch of USAID-funded programs to improve the lives of the people in Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. We later found out that USAID funds were being used by NGOs to bring people to the border so they could enter our country illegally. All on the American taxpayer's dime, the White House on Telegram. As of Sunday, 28th of June, the quantum financial system has been activated. $340 billion already transferred to the new system. 47 officials already in military custody at undisclosed locations. 12 countries already signed the agreement, you weren't told. The media is silent because they're part of it. Sunday, June 29, 2026. After pleading guilty to unlawfully retaining national defense information, U.S. Attorney Kelly O'Hayes, Mr. Bolton faces a maximum sentence of up to 5 years in prison followed by a term of up to 3 years of supervised release. He will also pay a fine of $2.25 million and will forfeit his pension. See possible timing, worldwide events scheduled, 3 Jan. 2024 Level 9, above presidential. Mission Operation Reset Alpha started classified, dismantled the old financial system in 72 hours. Monday, June 22, 2026 Protocol Quantum Finance activated connected to XRP Ledger, Blockchain Audit, ISO 20022 implementation, immediate. Sunday, June 28, 2026, Banking Reset Protocol initiated. All fiat transactions halted. New quantum system activated. On Wednesday, July 1, 2026 CBS activates. A blackout and lockdown will be global in all countries of the world. It will last 10 to 12 days when everyone will be asked to stay at home during a specific 5-hour window. Worldwide curfew in effect. Citizen movements restricted between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. Compliance mandatory. Monitored by SAT Grid. On Thursday, July 2, 2026, global media switchover. Old streams terminated. New QFS secured broadcasts begin airing truth sessions. Censorship structures dismantled. The pharmaceutical empire collapses as frequency medicine proves superior in every way. Friday 3, Sat. 4, Sunday, July 5, 2026, The Reveal. Pre-recorded presidential message broadcasts globally. Confirms restoration of constitutional republic. We took back the world. Announcement of the Global Restoration Plan. Every citizen will receive information about the new economic and legal structures. The pharmaceutical empire collapses as frequency medicine proves superior in every way. Sunday, July 5, 2026 Final stages of the transition to the new financial system completed. People will begin to access their revalued currencies and debt relief programs. Monday, July 6, 2026, a new era of freedom and prosperity officially begins. Twos. July 7, 2026, the absolute revaluation, RV, comes fully alive. Debt jubilee activations begin for those whose accounts were cleared. Law enforcement shifts completely to natural law protections. Wednesday, July 8, 2026, the unveiling of hidden technologies. Free energy and suppressed medical advancements are officially released to the public domain. No more scarcity. Thursday, July 9, 2026, global celebration protocols enabled. Local communities organize freedom assemblies to distribute the first wave of restoration funds. Twos. July 14, 2026, the transition begins. Your bank account won't disappear. Your money won't vanish. But the system that enslaved you will be dead. The Federal Reserve. Finished. The IRS. Finished. The old financial order. Finished. On Wednesday, June 25, 2026, new activations surged in protected sites worldwide. All operations are recorded for the EBS, exposing deep state crimes and the return of suppressed frequency medicine to the people. On Sunday, June 29, 2026, full global access begins round the clock everywhere. Holographic chambers repair pineal glands calcified by elite toxins, restore fertility stolen by depopulation agendas, and regress age for patriots who served longest. Survivors of the darkest experiments receive complete body, mind and spirit renewal protocols. 10 days of communication darkness. The countdown has officially begun. The old world is crumbling. After the darkness comes the light. What was hidden in the shadows is about to be revealed to the entire planet. Do not panic when the system goes offline. It is literally preparation for the greatest wealth transfer and liberation in human history. This is the final timeline you have been waiting for. The world's media is preparing for Disclosure Day, a huge event that will expose the principles of Jazara, the greatest wealth transfer in human history, and the basis for a new global economic system. The countdown will speed up and the world will stop for a moment. Power systems around the world will be reset at a coordinated effort to incorporate the new Starlink satellite internet, a giant leap into the future. Banks will close, ATMs and credit cards will stop working. Secure at least 3 weeks of food and water. The military will supply what you need if you don't have it. Non-stop education will be broadcast, teaching about the true principles of freedom and justice. Blackout, banks, ATMs close, internet down, grocery stores, gas pumps do not work, hospitals close, police kaput, MSM gone and much more. Nowhere to go but home, pool on Telegram. F Global Currency Reset, Judy note, no one knows the exact date for notification of appointments for Tier 4B, us, the Internet Group, to exchange foreign currencies, but deadlines shown in the above timing indicate it to be very soon. We have been told that Wells Fargo, which is controlled by the Chinese elders, the ones who own the gold behind the global currency reset, will send out emails to currency and bondholders worldwide telling them how to set redemption and exchange appointments. It is advised to exchange/redeem your foreign currency at an official redemption center, RC, rather than a bank. You can only redeem ZIM at RC, the dinar contract rate can only be given at RC, and banks will offer you lower exchange rates than what you can obtain at RC. You can only set up your new wallet, bank account, at RC. It was my understanding that most banks were under control of the cabal and would soon play a different role in the global financial system. Monday, June 29, 2026, the missing half of the U.S. national debt has been identified. Edward Snowden on Telegram. The Federal Reserve confirms, the U.S. Congress has built the single largest racket empire on the planet. U.S. NGOs have combined assets totaling $14.2 trillion of your tax money. India's and Japan's GDPs are each just over $4 trillion, Germany's is $5 trillion, and together they total about $13.5 trillion. Guess what? The combined assets of U.S. NGOs equal $14.2 trillion of your tax money, and that of your children, grandchildren, and great-great-great-great-grandchildren. In other words, the root of all corruption. The racket. U.S. Congress has racketed half the U.S. national debt to the planet's most profitable organizations. Sunday, June 28, 2026, Lincoln, Garfield, McKinley, and JFK weren't killed by lone gunmen. They were eliminated by the Federal Reserve. The banking cartel. The shadow government controlling America's money. Mr. Poole, final chapter on Telegram. 4 presidents assassinated. 4 lone gunmen. 4 investigations, random act, disturbed individual, no conspiracy. But the pattern is undeniable. It terrifies the people in power. All 4 presidents shared one critical action in the months before their death. They challenged the private banking system's control over American currency. They threatened the money monopoly. And they paid with their lives. Lincoln issued greenbacks. Government printed, debt-free currency that bypassed private banks. Threatened the banking cartel's profits. Shot in 1865 by John Wilkes Booth. Official story, lone gunman. Truth, execution order. Garfield declared intention to reform monetary policy and break the Federal Reserve's stranglehold. Shot in 1881. Official story, lone gunman. Truth, assassination. McKinley refused to surrender American currency to private bankers. Shot in 1901. Official story, lone gunman. Truth, elimination. Kennedy, Executive Order 11,110. Silver-backed Treasury notes without Federal Reserve. Creating debt-free currency. Taking power from banking cartel. Shot in 1963. Official story, lone gunman. Truth, coup d'etat. I have been told by contacts inside intelligence that Kennedy files contain evidence of banking cartel involvement. Declassifications coming. Andrew Jackson survived 2 assassination attempts. Both pistols misfired. The bank is trying to kill me, only president to pay off national debt to zero. They put him on the $20 bill as mockery. Pattern extends beyond America. Every leader attempting sovereign debt-free currency was removed. Gaddafi, gold-backed African currency, freed 54 nations from dollar dependency. Overthrown 2011. Saddam, sold oil in euros. Invaded 2003. This is Operation Currency Control. Banking cartel maintains monopoly through elimination. Anyone threatening the money system is removed. Method changes, bullets, bombs, revolutions, trigger is always the same, threatening monetary sovereignty. It's not about politics. Not about ideology. Leaders of every political type are tolerated as long as they don't touch the money. Print debt-free currency. This is the one rule. The only rule. Trump understands this. Trump is challenging the Federal Reserve. Trump is threatening the banking cartel. The declassifications are coming. The truth will be exposed. The cartel's days are numbered. 4 presidents, same trigger, currency sovereign, banking cartel exposed. On Saturday, July 4, 2026 at 3:47 a.m. the Federal Reserve Building was to go dark. The same building where Janet Yellen signed Protocol Finance 7 on March 15, 2024, where they hid $847 trillion in offshore accounts, where they plan to collapse the dollar by September 2026. But something went wrong for them. On June 28, 2026, Kevin Warsh walked into the Eccles building as the new chairman. He brought 3 folders. Folder 1, Operation Reset Alpha started, January 3, 2024 classified, Level 9, above presidential, mission, dismantle the old financial system in 72 hours. Folder 2, Protocol Quantum Finance activated, June 22, 2026 connected to, XRP Ledger, Blockchain Audit, ISO 20022 implementation, immediate. Folder 3, Executive Declassification Order 2026-89 signed, July 1, 2026 content, everything about the Federal Reserve's crimes distribution, global, unredacted, no escape. Here's what's happening right now. On July 2, 2026, the SWIFT system will be replaced. Not reformed. Not updated. Replaced. $340 billion already transferred to the new system. 47 officials already in military custody at undisclosed locations. 12 countries already signed the agreement. You weren't told. The media is silent because they're part of it. Level 9. Protocol Quantum Finance. Operation Reset Alpha. Mockingbird complete. Executive Order 14411. Executive, Declassification Order 2026-89. Kevin Warsh. Bill Pulte. Tulsi Gabbard. Elon Musk. They're not fighting each other. They're fighting for you. July 4, 2026, Independence Day takes on new meaning. July 7, 2026, the announcement. July 14, 2026, the transition begins. Your bank account won't disappear. Your money won't vanish. But the system that enslaved you will be dead. The Federal Reserve. Finished. The IRS. Finished. The old financial order. Finished. Guru Information and Intel, case Saturday, June 27, 2026 breaking, Epstein files confirm Biden was executed by firing squad in 2019, body double installed, global elites secretly controlled the White House for years, and the deep state's darkest secret is now blowing wide open in 2026, 107 on Telegram. Patriots, hold on to your hats, the storm arrived full force on an explosive February 15, 2026. The freshly unleashed Epstein files under President Trump's Epstein Files Transparency Act, dropped November 19, 2025, are dropping nuclear bombs on the cabal. What we think we know as of Tuesday, June 30, 2026 Sunday, June 28, 2026, First Lady Melania Trump is a Romanov. Romanova equals New Rome. The original fake Rothschild Vladimir Putin was taken out and replaced. The one you see now is a white hat, brother to Melania and head of the Russian military. He is holding her rightful position until this movie ends. Curtain call. Monday, June 29, 2026, Democrat operative caught on hidden camera admitting how they rigged the 2020 Georgia election, stuffed ballots, lied and kicked out poll watchers from the State Farm Arena, pulled out hidden suitcases of ballots, and ran the same stacks throughout the night until Biden cleared the margin of victory, EBS live on Telegram. And Sunday, June 28, Republicans cracking down on billions in government fraud. DOJ charging hundreds in massive healthcare scams. SNAP improper payments alone topped $10 billion last year, over 10% of the entire program. Democrats can cry politics all they want. Americans are sick of their money being stolen. Time to drain the fraud swamp once and for all. Sunday, June 28, 2026 The New World Order and the Knights of Malta. The Sovereign Military Order of Malta, SMOM, officially the Sovereign Military Hospitaller Order of St. John of Jerusalem of Rhodes and of Malta, was founded in 1080, or even earlier, by a group of merchants from Amalfi in Italy. The Knights of Malta, like many other secret societies, is a satanic cult and organized crime syndicate with its threads weaving through business, banking, politics, the CIA, MI6, P2, Mossad, religion, education, law, military, think tanks, charities, foundations, the United States Information Agency, the United Nations, and numerous other organizations. The world head of the Knights of Malta is elected for a life term, with the approval of the Pope. Male descendants of the Rothschild family are considered high-level members of the Knights of Malta from birth. The Knights of Malta have their own constitution and are sworn to work toward the establishment of a new world order with the Pope at its head. Knights of Malta members are also powerful members of the CFR and the Trilateral Commission. The Knights of Malta all have diplomatic immunity, and can ship goods across borders without paying duty, or undergoing customs checks. The Knights of Malta is held up by a backbone consisting of nobility. Nearly half of the 10,000 members belong to Europe's oldest and most powerful families. This cements the unholy alliance between the Vatican and black nobility of Venice and Genoa. Membership in the Knights of Malta entails obedience to one's superior in the order, and ultimately to the Pope. Therefore, a U.S. ambassador who is also a member of the Knights of Malta faces a conflict of interest. Why is this fact ignored? President Bush appointed Knight of Malta, Thomas Melody, to the post of U.S. ambassador to the Vatican. Democrats sent the money out through USAID. The CEO was labeled a known con man by the investigation team prior to getting the contract from Kamala Harris. The Democrat Party is a money-laundering criminal organization. It's actually worse than you think. The company and CEO was deeply involved in a decade-long bribery scheme with USAID contracting officer Roderick Watson and others. They secured over $550 million in contracts through bribes. Walter Barnes pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit bribery and securities fraud. The companies Aprio and Vistant admitted criminal liability via deferred prosecution agreements and paid relatively small settlements of only $500,000 and $100,000. Imagine paying only these small fines for stealing hundreds of millions of dollars. Democrats are so corrupt. They're all in on it. Q Sunday, June 28, 2026, The Biden Illusion, Trump drops classified proof, deep state used actors, clones, and holograms to fake a presidency, Pentagon insider on Telegram. President Trump has just dropped what he describes as undeniable proof: Joe Biden was never truly in control. From day one, the American public was, according to this narrative, guided by a carefully constructed illusion built on doubles, digital projections, and advanced technologies. What is being presented now is framed as the end of that illusion and the beginning of accountability. This is not being described as a simple decline or weakness. The claim goes much further, that what the world saw as Joe Biden was not a single consistent figure, but part of a controlled system designed to maintain the appearance of leadership. According to this narrative, power remained elsewhere, while the image presented to the public was carefully managed. The argument suggests that what appeared to be a functioning administration was, in reality, a layered structure made up of stand-ins, digital manipulation, and controlled public appearances. Supporters of this theory point to various moments over the years that raised questions, unusual gestures, inconsistent behavior, and changes in appearance that, in their view, did not align with a normal public figure. Those who followed this narrative closely argue that the signs were always there. They reference differences in facial features, shifts in expression, and irregular movements that seemed out of place. While critics dismissed these observations as coincidence or overanalysis, others saw a consistent pattern forming over time. According to this perspective, the reasoning behind such an operation would be control. If a real and stable leadership image could not be maintained, then an artificial one could be created instead. A visible figure to maintain continuity, sign documents, and appear in public, while the real decision-making remained hidden. In this view, perception became more important than reality itself. For those who believed this from the beginning, this moment is seen as validation. For others, it remains an unproven and highly controversial claim. The divide between these positions reflects something deeper, a growing gap in trust between institutions and the public, where even the most visible aspects of leadership are being questioned. If claims like these were ever proven, the implications would be enormous. Questions would arise about legitimacy, decision-making, and the authenticity of political processes over the past years. However, it is important to state clearly that these claims remain unverified and are not confirmed by official sources. In the end, this is no longer just about one individual. It is about perception, control, and the nature of truth itself. Whether accepted or rejected, narratives like this show how far public trust has shifted. And when that trust breaks, every version of reality starts to feel possible. Saturday, June 27, 2026. Mike Benz brings the recipes and documents showing U.S. government uses our tax dollars to protect George Soros, Carolyn Bessette Kennedy on Telegram. George Soros worked side by side with the U.S. State Department, USAID and even our intelligence agencies, CIA, to funnel money to his NGOs. Additional CIA involvement with George Soros example, a 2017 Heritage Foundation report noted that during the Barack Obama administration, USAID collaborated with George Soros-funded groups to promote progressive policies abroad, such as gay/transgender rights and drug decriminalization. A 1993 Soros Foundation's report also mentioned a cooperative agreement with USAID for a management training program. A Lithuanian newspaper called Respublika was the second largest daily at the time. It ran a multi-day series attacking George Soros, his Open Society Fund in Lithuania, and local NGOs and think tanks receiving its funding. The articles portrayed Soros as a billionaire meddler with CIA ties seeking to undermine political stability via civil society groups. They also targeted Lithuanian President Valdas Adamkus and others linked to these NGOs. George Soros uses the money he gets from USAID to create political instability and take over governments. Friday, June 26, 2026 mass arrests. They told you the Epstein files were released. They lied. What was released is 40%. The other 60%, the part with American names, is being used right now for something they will never tell you on television. Ben Fulford on Telegram. Prince Andrew, arrested. Not questioned. Arrested. Cuffed in his own residence on June 14. Released on bail. Media buried it within 6 hours. Peter Mandelson, British ambassador to the U.S., arrested by Scotland Yard. Stripped of title. Under investigation for espionage. Torbjørn Jagland, former Prime Minister of Norway, criminally charged. 3 countries. 3 arrests. 2 weeks. And the American names haven't even started. I have the list. 217 names. Not the public one. The sealed one. The one Kash Patel handed to Trump on June 8 in a meeting that lasted 47 minutes at Mar-a-Lago. No phones allowed. No staff. Just the 2 of them in a folder marked Black Book Final. What's in that folder? Black small square emoji, 14 sitting U.S. senators, both parties, black small square emoji, 3 former cabinet members, Clinton and Obama era, black small square emoji, 6 CEOs of companies you use every day, black small square emoji, 2 Supreme Court clerks who are now federal judges, black small square emoji, 1 name so big that when it drops, the stock market will lose 2,000 points in 90 minutes. Leon Black testifies June 26. But not publicly. Behind closed doors. Because what he knows about the financial network, the $3.2 billion laundered through 14 offshore trusts, connects to people who are still in power. Alan Dershowitz, July 9. He's not testifying. He's negotiating. Full cooperation in exchange for immunity. He has video evidence from the island that names 4 people currently serving in government. The DOJ said they released every document required. CBS found the gaps. 412 pages missing. Not redacted, missing. Pulled from the files between May 30 and June 2 by someone inside the DOJ who is now under FBI surveillance. Trump knows. He's known since January. The arrests are sequenced. Foreign first. Then corporate. Then political. Then the one at the top that nobody expects. July 4. The final name drops on Independence Day. Not because of symbolism. Because by then, every escape route will be sealed. Every passport flagged. Every account frozen. This isn't justice delayed. This is justice engineered. Precise. Methodical. Inescapable. The children they destroyed are now the witnesses who'll destroy them. Black Book 217 sealed sequence Foreign Corp. Polled July 4 final name. No deals. No plea bargains. No quiet resignations. Tribunals. Friday, June 26, 2026, $44 million of Fauci's NIAID and USAID was sent to the Wuhan lab for gain-of-function research, aka bioweapon development. Caroline Levitt on Telegram. Friday, June 26, 2026, if you are too intimidated to read the Q drops, I read them all for you. American breaking news on Telegram. The main allegation is that the Obama admin intentionally gave U.S. uranium to North Korea, Iran, and Syria, via Uranium One and the Iran deal, with intention to start a global nuclear war, and everything the Dems have been doing since Trump came down the escalator, was to cover up this crime, along with all the other crimes they have committed. Seems relevant. You can grasp the main body of the Q thesis in these two drops below. The first drop describes the travel path of the uranium from Uranium-1, U1. It went from the US, to Canada, to Europe and Asia, and then Q alleges from there it went to both Iran and North Korea. Q alleges that the Dems never thought they would have to worry about getting caught, because they assumed Hillary would win 2016. The reference to sum of all fears indicates that the Obama admin intended to use the nuclear weapon in order to set off a war and coerce the US mill and Russian mill to fight each other. The second drop alleges that some of the uranium from Uranium-1, U1, ended up at an Iranian satellite nuclear facility in Syria, and their plan was to strike Israel. But Q also reminds us that this nuclear material is traceable, which is why the US securing the uranium in Iran right now is so important, and why I have been pushing this point so hard. So if you want to know the big secret, there it is. Q is a set of coded messages, released by the US mill/DOE, that reveals that the Obama admin gave nuclear weapons to our adversaries, and everything we have witnessed over the last 10 years, else revolves around this situation. If you don't think it's real, then why is Trump securing all the rogue nuclear programs around the world? Friday, June 26, 2026, the world's media is preparing for Disclosure Day, a huge event that will expose the principles of Jezara, the greatest wealth transfer in human history, and the basis for a new global economic system, Tier 4B ISO 20022 on Telegram. The countdown will speed up and the world will stop for a moment. Power systems around the world will be reset at a coordinated effort to incorporate the new Starlink satellite internet, a giant leap into the future. Starlink, managed by the United States Space Force, will eliminate outdated infrastructures, providing us with free energy, and the long-awaited quantum ISO coins. Testing is already underway. This revolutionary technology is ready and the initial signs are small-scale shutdowns in Israel and many other countries. Be prepared to glide into an age of innovation and global prosperity. Why Friday, June 26, 2026 a journalist leaked 11.5 million documents proving the elites, politicians and celebrities were using offshore entities as tax havens, to launder money and to hide assets. Martial law on Telegram. The woman who leaked it was named Daphne Caruana Galizia. She was killed by a car bomb near her home. Remember 10 years ago when the Panama Papers came out and confirmed that elites use offshore bank accounts and shell companies to move their money around and pay as close to zero in taxes as they possibly can. And all that happened was the journalist that leaked it all got assassinated. Here's what happened: a massive leak of 11.5 million documents, 2.6 plus terabytes, from Mossack Fonseca, a Panamanian law firm specializing in offshore shell companies. It exposed wealthy elites, politicians, celebrities and criminals used offshore entities in tax havens, Panama, British Virgin Islands, Cayman Islands, and more to hide assets, move money secretly, avoid taxes, launder funds, and dodge sanctions. Timeline. Right now. The only difference is which one they allow you to access. That is about to change. This video is reposted from the blog, erdailyblog.com.
Thank you for your support and companionship over the years. We are still here today thanks to the contributions of each and every one of you. We sincerely appreciate it. Stay tuned for the latest news on our official website, rrdailyblog.com. If you enjoy our content and are able to, we would truly appreciate a small tip or even just a cup of coffee through Give, Send, Go and PayPal links below. May God bless us all.
Patriots, I am at, and this is an update on Judy Byington official statement regarding the status of the Restored Republic report. Update regarding Judy Byington. Recent situation and silence. Dear Patriots and loyal readers, I'm writing the official update today, June 29, 2026, to directly address the overwhelming number of messages, comments, and emails I have received from our global community regarding Judy Byington's current situation. To be completely transparent with all of you, I've received no news or direct updates from Judy as of today, and personally I have not either. Usually she emails me with the report every day, and I have not even been able to contact her. I fully understand and share the deep growing concern with our community. The heavy silence is felt deeply by me, and I'm personally monitoring the situation with a profound sense of urgency. Judy is a pillar of truth-seeking journalism, and her safety, well-being, and voice are of utmost importance to me and to this movement. Like many of you, I'm starting to feel deeply worried. Me too. Judy is a vital part of our family, and the silence weighs heavily on my heart. I'm holding her close in my thoughts and prayers, hoping with all my heart that she is safe and well. Please stay strong and let's keep her in our prayers. I want to assure all of my readers that I'm actively trying to establish contact. The moment I receive absolutely any verified information, a follow-up report will be published here immediately. Thank you for your unwavering vigilance, your loyalty, and for standing together with me during this tense time. Stay tuned for further updates, Medea Greer. And that's so keep her in your prayers. I'm very worried about Judy. There's a lot of wildfires in Utah right now, and that is concerning. I wonder if that has something to do with why she can't use her email and computer. Maybe she had to leave, really quickly. So I don't know. I just wish I did know. And if somebody out there does have any information, please get it out there.
We've been seeing the EBS colors flashing, coming in and out various times, multiple networks, multiple times over the last couple of weeks. While the EBS, in my opinion, I think it's pretty clear, maybe I'm wrong, but certainly hasn't been activated. But what do you make of this? Is this preparation? What are they doing? Because these are not accidents, but it also hasn't been deployed. What do you think's going on here?
Yeah, this is a soft launch. This is to soften the shock of the new. It's just familiarity. Oh, that's our EBS. So when it does happen, there's a level of confidence there and familiarity with it. It's always the shock of the new.
And it's a post from Bio Clandestine. He's on Telegram. Clandestine, mind-blowing Epstein connection with North Korea and Uranium One. Monday, June 29th by Tara Setz. I just made, and this says alert, I just made a mind-blowing connection about Epstein. And it has nothing to do with the trafficking stuff. It's about North Korea and Uranium One. According to a 2013 email exchange between Epstein and French diplomat Olivier Colomb, Epstein was very interested in North Korea. Stay with me, it will all add up in the end. Colomb emailed Epstein and asked if he was interested in North Korea, to which Epstein replied, very. Then Colomb says, I have something for you then, huge, ultra confidential. Come to Moscow with me in January. Keep in mind, this email exchange took place on December 6, 2013, less than 2 months after the Uranium One deal was completed, and Rosatom, Russia, took 100% ownership of Uranium One. Then, after Epstein says he likes the idea of North Korea as a potential location for whatever they were planning, Colomb says, issue is very sensitive, have to meet you. A lot of connections here, but wait, there's more. Then in January 2017, exchange between Epstein and New York Times journalist Landon Thomas Jr. Epstein and Thomas Jr. discussed everyone's panic and fear of Trump being inaugurated, as well as North Korean diplomacy and North Korea's nuclear missile program. There's not much here in this email exchange that suggests Epstein was directly involved in North Korea's nuclear missile program. But I found it interesting that Epstein brought it up unprompted. But wait, it gets better. Number 3, then June 12th, the day of Trump's historic summit with Kim Jong-un, this is 2018, Epstein tells David Stern, Prince Andrew's right-hand man, confidant, that he wanted to go to North Korea to see number 1, meaning Kim Jong-un. Then 2 days later, he follows up to Stern and says, ask Bannon to get me to North Korea. I want to buy prime real estate. I have the money. That's a bombshell connection I had never made before. Epstein was freaking out about Trump having a summit with Kim Jong-un, and then is frantically emailing people trying to get a meeting with the North Korean dictator and buy prime real estate in North Korea. What's going on here? Why was Epstein so concerned about Trump reaching a nuclear deal with Kim Jong-un? I have a hunch. But wait, it gets even spookier. Then fast forward to June 30th, 2019. Trump completes third and final meeting with Kim Jong-un, where Trump famously stepped into North Korea. Then just 6 days later, July 6, 2019, Epstein was arrested, and his island was raided shortly after. Is it a coincidence that as soon as Trump was done in North Korea, Epstein was locked up? Number 5, now this is where I'm going to lose some people as we go further down the rabbit hole. According to the Q drops, the material from Uranium-1 didn't just end up in Iran. They claim it ended up in North Korea as well. Q alleged that the Obama administration helped supply North Korea with U.S. uranium. Just a quick side note, remember the plan was for them to, they sold Uranium-1 to Russia, but they skimmed some of it off the top and gave some to Iran and some to North Korea, and they were planning to drop a bomb, nuclear bomb, in like Seattle or someplace like that out west, and blame it on Russia, and they wanted to trigger this nuclear war. Hence, that's why they built all the bunkers and the tunnels. And that's if Hillary had gotten into office. That was part of the 16-year plan. And that's why we're trying to get this uranium back from Iran, because it can be traced back to Uranium-1. And Obama, of course. That's the Q drop. Then C drop 194, Q outlines the path of the uranium and alleges it ended up in Iran, North Korea, the home of both the rogue nuclear programs that Trump has targeted in both his terms. Then Q makes a reference to the Rothschild family with the line, "Why? What does it mean to be covered in gold?" Q later confirmed the Y symbol in reference to covered in gold was code for the Rothschild banking family. And what did Epstein say in a 2016 exchange with Peter Thiel? Epstein said, "As you probably know, I represent the Rothschilds." There's the post in the email. In conclusion, if we're going to assume there is any validity to the Q drops that Trump himself has quoted alluded to hundreds of times, I believe they are saying that North Korea and Iran were avenues for the Rothschilds, one of the ruling families of the deep state, to gain control of nuclear weapons. Epstein was an errand boy for the Rothschilds and part of the Democrat Obama-Clinton brain trust. If the allegations about Uranium-1 are legitimate, then Epstein surely would have been involved. And his email history adds some validity to it. I don't think the real story about Epstein is the pedo stuff. I think it's about North Korea, the Rothschilds, and Uranium-1. So this article just proves what most of us already knew, that North Korea and Iran were these rogue nuclear states being used by the cabal as proxies, and they were going to be used to trigger nuclear war. Maybe North Korea was a backup, but remember when Trump went on his worldwide tour with the red folders of evidence, and the evidence was probably Epstein files type evidence with the, pedophilia and worse. So my guess is when he went to North Korea, then showed the evidence, North Korea, Kim Jong-un fell underneath the control of the alliance. That's what I'm guessing. But it just proves these connections, and Epstein, it's all connected. And, we can see that now that the evidence is coming out.
Good morning. It's Monday, the 29th of June, 2026. I've told you many, many times about those people who were arrested 4 years ago And people were like, well, I don't see any evidence. I don't see any evidence. Well, the evidence is coming out right now for those people who are aware. And this is all to do with frequency. And I'll give you one example, because mainstream media are not telling you the truth. Certainly not the whole truth. I'll give you one example. There's a man in America called John Bolton. John Bolton was arrested and charged. Nothing in mainstream media. And even now, no mention of the fact that he's been arrested and charged. But there is a mention of the fact that he's been found guilty and fined 2.5 million and will be serving time in prison. Now, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to work out that if you've been fined 2.5 million and you're going to spend time in prison, that you've probably been arrested and charged. But they didn't tell you that bit, did they? But it's there in plain sight when you know. So you're hearing that these people are going to prison. You're hearing these people are getting fined. You're hearing all this stuff, but you're not adding a very simple 1 + 1. That to be charged or to go to prison and be fined, you have to be charged. You have to be arrested and charged. That's how the system works. But they forget to tell you that part. That's how media works. They just put out there that, oh, he's been fined and, oh, he'll spend some time in prison. But they fail to mention to you, the public, that he was arrested and charged. So when you see cases of people being fined and going to prison, please add 1 and 1 together. Morning, Drew.
Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, everyone. Well, going to the UK, King Charles and Prince William have for the first time supposedly publicly revealed how much personal tax they've paid, making an unprecedented move towards greater transparency within the British monarchy. Buckingham Palace confirmed that King Charles paid £12.9 million in tax for the 2024-25 financial year and has paid more than 30 million since becoming king in 2022. Prince William also disclosed that he paid £7.76 million in tax for 2024-2025, bringing his total tax payments to more than £20 million since becoming Prince of Wales. The disclosure accompanied wider changes to the reporting of royal finances. The annual Sovereign Grant Report also confirmed that public funding for the monarchy will move to £99.9 million a year from 2027, while Buckingham Palace's long-running refurbishment nears completion. Supporters say the move demonstrates a commitment to greater accountability and openness. Critics argue that questions remain over the wider financial arrangements surrounding the monarchy, including the Duchess and the level of public funding.
Yeah, what a beautiful story and what a load of absolute poppycock. For those people who actually do any research at all, this reminds me of the story of what a wonderful man Bill Gates is because he gives so much money to charity. The fact is that he owns the charity, and that charity gives to another charity of his, that gives to another charity of his, that gives. So it looks like he's given so much to charity, but it just goes round and round in circles. So that the public think, whoa, what a wonderful person. This is all part of the pantomime. But this is to wake people up. Anybody who does any research at all will find out the truth. And I'm not going to tell you. This is something you have to do yourself, because if I tell you, you won't believe it. So it's time for you guys to do your own research or live in your happy bubble. There are so many people out there that just live in their happy bubble until, like recently, one of my other friends who lives in his happy bubble suddenly found out certain things are not quite what he thought they were within the banking world. Once you mess with their money, oh, their bubble goes bang. Very, very interesting. My next story is Also, this is more of a, not so much a story, but a word of advice. Everybody who's listening to me right now will have heard about the reset, will have heard about the great transfer of wealth. And this is going to be a piece of very, very good advice from bitter experience. When you come into money, a substantial amount of money, I'm going to advise you from personal experience. The best thing you can do if you come into a large amount of money is nothing for 90 days. Because most of the mistakes when we get money are made within the first 90 days. Sit back and evaluate the situation from a position of strength, knowing that you've got a large amount of money, knowing that most of your problems have gone away. Now, obviously, it's wisdom to be able to buy yourself food and drink out of that money and to be able to pay your bills. But before you do anything stupid, sit back for 90 days. Now, you've been listening to me for 7 years, so 90 days is only 3 months. You can manage it. And if you do, you'll make smart choices rather than foolish choices. And that's coming from a man who's made many, many foolish choices. Learn from experience. There are plenty of people out there who will tell you exactly the same thing, that have come into large amounts of money. During my life, when I did jobs, I would earn 1 million, 5 million per time. And then I'd just have one big party and enjoy my life. And I look back and think of some of the stupid things that I wasted my money on. Where what you need to do is look at yourself and your future, as my wife will tell me, that we need to look after ourselves long term, not short term. Short term, you can be so happy, but that's only for a short term. So that's my little piece of advice for you as we get very close to one of the greatest resets of all time, the biggest transfer of wealth that you and I will ever know is in our lifetime. Don't miss the opportunity to set yourself up for life. Drew.
Next up, Britain's heatwave has caused refrigeration systems to fail in several supermarkets, forcing stores to remove chilled and frozen food from sale. Industry leaders say aging cooling systems are struggling with record temperatures. Now we know why they've been cooking us like chickens, Charlie.
Yeah, this makes me smile because it's just preparing you mentally, because they know that they could very easily shut down the food chain and, all of the air conditioning's gone down because it's been so hot. And they can simply cut off your food supply like that. We saw it before with the farmers. The food chain stops literally within 72 hours, 3 days gone. When everybody went to the supermarkets, they ran out of chicken, they ran out of toilet paper, they ran out of everything in 3 days. We're trying to educate you here to understand what they're doing, to teach you what they're doing. Do not believe the BS. And as my masseuse, who looks after me and has done for many, many years, lives off-grid, grows all her own stuff, creates her own electricity from solar, has her own well. She's not dependent on the supermarkets. She's not dependent on that. We've all become so dependent on other people, which is fine until they let you down. I'll leave you with that thought. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow. It's nearly the end of June. Half the year's gone already. Don't panic. Things are going to get better. But it's a bit bumpy right now, but have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.
In this next clip, Matt highlights Trump's speech about the Democrat Socialists of America and that they are really just communists. Trump is using the same tactics the globalists or deep state use by labeling the party communists. And that's what they are. Because most people associate that term with the Soviet Union and Mao's China. Uneducated people hear the term socialist and actually think it's a good form of government, like the term labor. Sounds like they are for the people and supporting the little guy. If you look back in time, the deep state has been slowly changing the meaning of the word socialist and associating it with justice and anti-fascism, etc. Words are used to program people's ideology. Just remember that. And we know that, we've seen that in the mainstream media when they have their terms of the day, their 4 a.m. talking points where, they have to use, a phrase or a term in their news reporting. So, once you start to see it, it's hard to miss. Communists also hate Christians because our Constitution is based on Christianity. We believe that God gives us freedom. Freedom is naturally given to us by God, by our Creator, not by the government. Freedom and free will, these are concepts the communists don't want people to think that are just something that you get because you're alive. They want you to be controlled by them. They want you to look at government as God and that they supply freedom. They supply whether you can speak or not. But a Christian-based country with the Constitution that we have based on the Christian values does not support that at all. Our laws are written with God in mind, that God gave us natural free will and freedom to, create our own destiny.
At this point, I'm sure you're all wondering, very fair question. Okay, we've identified the problem. Yeah, there's a rise in communism in the Democrat Party, big problem. What can we do about it? What can President Trump actually do about all of this communist infiltration? Well, we have a couple answers. Let's break it all down. You see, if President Trump was so inclined, and I'll tell you what, with the stuff he's saying today, it sure seems like he is, what he could do is dust off, blow the dust off of not one, but two very powerful pieces of legislation dating back to the early era of the Cold War, the early days of the Cold War. These two pieces of legislation are called, one, the Internal Security Act of 1950, and two, the Communist Control Act of 1954. Have you heard about those? And by dusting off these two very powerful pieces of legislation passed, seriously, they're in effect right now. Nobody talks about them. Nobody enforces them. Nobody does anything. They are on the books right now. By enforcing and dusting off these two acts, going back to the early 1950s, Trump could attempt to do the following. One, he could instruct the DOJ to open investigations into any groups, organizations, or individuals who organize around Marxist or Leninist political philosophy that are advocating to overthrow or undermine the U.S. Republic. They'd be worried about that because that's what they're doing. Number two, Trump, well, the DOJ could then pursue criminal federal charges against anyone inside of the U.S. who meets this criteria, trying to communistically undermine the U.S., our republic, or who has been found to be actively working with any foreign entity that similarly meets this criteria. So if you're inside of America right now and you're working with the Cuban communist regime, with the North Korean communist regime, with the Chinese communist regime, guess what? Criminal federal charges. It's on the books. We already have the power to do this. What's more, Trump could also instruct the State Department to revoke the citizenship of naturalized U.S. citizens, or they could also similarly revoke the legal immigrant status for any immigrant individual inside of the US who meets any of this criteria. So let's brainstorm for a second. What might this look like? Somebody like Mamdani, who has publicly, it's matter of record, who has publicly supported and espoused communist, Leninist, Marxist beliefs. He is a naturalized immigrant. He wasn't, or a naturalized citizen. He was not born a U.S. citizen. He's an immigrant here. He came from Uganda to the U.S. a couple decades ago. He got his citizenship. I wish he didn't, but he did. He is a U.S. citizen now. He's naturalized. That naturalized citizenship for Mamdani could be revoked under these pretenses, communist sympathies. Okay? It could be done. It could be done. The legislation exists alongside all of his other, members of his communist cohort, all of them across the country. Another name that comes to mind is Hassan Piker. You heard of him? Big time communist sympathizer, immigrant to the country, Turkish immigrant. He's a big left-wing communist broadcaster over on Twitch. He's on YouTube. Guess what? Maybe we could get rid of him too under these same legislative pretenses. The legislation exists. It's been on the books for about 70 years, over 70 years, some of it. So, ladies and gentlemen, Trump says he's going to be going scorched earth against the commies. People are saying, well, what is he going to do? Trump says he's been preparing for a long time for this stuff. And it's true, as a matter of fact, he has with his relationships back in the past with Cohn. Okay? It's this type of stuff we might be seeing Trump might start doing this stuff here in the very near future. It sure seems like he will. And I'll tell you what, as far as I'm concerned, this is the type of stuff we need to see if we truly want to put America.
In 1963, following the Red Scare period of history, Congress read aloud the 45 goals of the Communist Party. As you listen, you can check off practically every one of those goals achieved, and the Democrat Party was the party linked up to it. Some rhinos also. I believe both parties are captured operations at this point. Just follow the money. Trump and the White Hats are undoing their plans. Also notice the goals make reference to a new world order, one world government with the UN as its blueprint. This should logically tell you that as far back as the 1950s, people knew about the deep state and its goals. This was a warning to us now.
The Communist Manifesto that was read on the U.S. House floor on Thursday, January 10, 1963. The 45 Communist Goals as read into the Congressional Record, 1963. Congressional Record Appendix, pages A34-A35. January 10, 1963. Current Communist Goals. Extension of remarks of Han A.S. Herlong, Jr. of Florida in the House of Representatives. Mr. Herlong. Mr. Speaker, Mrs. Patricia Nordman of DeLand, Florida, is an ardent and articulate opponent of communism, and until recently published the DeLand Courier, which she dedicated to the purpose of alerting the public to the dangers of communism in America. At Mrs. Nordman's request, I include in the record, under unanimous consent, the following current communist goals, which she identifies as an excerpt from The Naked Communist, by Cleon Skousen. From The Naked Communist, by Cleon Skousen. Current Communist Goals. 1. U.S. acceptance of coexistence as the only alternative to atomic war. 2. U.S. willingness to capitulate in preference to engaging in atomic war. 3. Develop the illusion that total disarmament, by the United States would be a demonstration of moral strength. 4. Permit free trade between all nations regardless of communist affiliation and regardless of whether or not items could be used for war. 5. Extension of long-term loans to Russia and Soviet satellites. 6. Provide American aid to all nations regardless of communist domination. 7. Grant recognition of Red China. Admission of Red China to the UN. 8. Set up East and West Germany as separate states in spite of Khrushchev's promise in 1955 to settle the German question by free elections under supervision of the UN. 9. Prolong the conferences to ban atomic tests because the United States has agreed to suspend tests as long as negotiations are in progress. 10. Allow all Soviet satellites individual representation in the UN. 11. Promote the UN as the only hope for mankind. If its charter is rewritten, demand that it be set up as a one-world government with its own independent armed forces. Some communist leaders believe the world can be taken over as easily by the UN as by Moscow. Sometimes these two centers compete with each other as they are now doing in the Congo. 12. Resist any attempt to outlaw the Communist Party. 13. Do away with all loyalty oaths. 14. Continue giving Russia access to the U.S. Patent Office. 15. Capture one or both of the political parties in the United States. 16. Use technical decisions of the courts to weaken basic American institutions by claiming their activities violate civil rights. 17. Get control of the schools. Use them as transmission belts for socialism and current communist propaganda. Soften the curriculum. Get control of teachers' associations. Put the party line in textbooks. 18. Gain control of all student newspapers. 19. Use student riots to foment public protests against programs or organizations which are under communist attack. 20. Infiltrate the press. Get control of book review assignments, editorial writing, policy-making positions. 21. Gain control of key positions in radio, TV, and motion pictures. 22. Continue discrediting American culture by degrading all forms of artistic expression. An American communist cell was told to eliminate all good sculpture from parks and buildings, substitute shapeless, awkward and meaningless forms. 23. Control art critics and directors of art museums. Our plan is to promote ugliness, repulsive, meaningless art. 24. Eliminate all laws governing obscenity by calling them censorship and a violation of free speech and free press. 25. Break down cultural standards of morality by promoting pornography and obscenity in books, magazines, motion pictures, radio, and TV. 26. Present homosexuality, degeneracy and promiscuity as normal, natural, healthy. 27. Infiltrate the churches and replace revealed religion with social religion. Discredit the Bible and emphasize the need for intellectual maturity which does not need a religious crutch. 28. Eliminate prayer or any phase of religious expression in the schools on the ground that it violates the principle of separation of church and state. 29. Discredit the American Constitution by calling it inadequate, old-fashioned, out of step with modern needs, a hindrance to cooperation between nations on a worldwide basis. 30. Discredit the American Founding Fathers. Present them as selfish aristocrats who had no concern for the common man. 31. Belittle all forms of American culture and discourage the teaching of American history on the ground that it was only a minor part of the big picture. Give more emphasis to Russian history since the communists took over. 32. Support any socialist movement to give centralized control over any part of the culture, education, social agencies, welfare programs, mental health clinics, etc. 33. Eliminate all laws or procedures which interfere with the operation of the communist apparatus. 34. Eliminate the House Committee on Un-American Activities. 35. Discredit and eventually dismantle the FBI. 36. Infiltrate and gain control of more unions. 37. Infiltrate and gain control of big business. 38. Transfer some of the powers of arrest from the police to social agencies. 42. Create the impression that violence and insurrection are legitimate aspects of the American tradition, that students and special interest groups should rise up and use united force to solve economic, political, or social problems. 43. Overthrow all colonial governments before native populations are ready for self-government. 44. Internationalize the Panama Canal. 45. Repeal the Connolly Reservation so the United States cannot prevent the World Court.
The deep state firings have begun. From Edward Snowden on Telegram. Those aren't my words. That's a direct quote from the new Director of National Intelligence, Bill Pulte, as of yesterday. Let me tell you what's actually happening right now. Trump fired the NSA Director, General Timothy Hoff. Gone. His deputy, Wendy Noble, gone. The National Counterterrorism Center, gutted. Hundreds of intelligence officers across 18 agencies terminated. 120,000 people work in America's intelligence community. The purge has started. But here's what they're not telling you on the news. It's not about budget cuts. When Pulte walked into ODNI headquarters on June 19th, he was handed a classified briefing labeled Tier O Access Only. What he found in that building made him call the White House at 11:47 p.m. that same night. I've been told what was in those files. Operation Looking Glass, a domestic surveillance program that tracked 47 million American patriots based on their social media activity, church attendance, and gun purchases. Active since 2014, never authorized by Congress. Run by 3 senior officials who reported to no one. Crossfire continuation. The FBI's operation against Trump didn't end in 2017. It was transferred to a subunit within ODNI and ran continuously through his entire first term, his trial, and his 2024 campaign. 23 agents, $89 million in black budget funds. They intercepted communications between Trump and 14 world leaders, then leaked them to the Washington Post. January 6 infiltration files. Pulte found documentation of 12 federal agents embedded in the crowd that day, not observing, directing. 3 of them are still employed. Their handler's name is in the file. Trump told the Wall Street Journal that Pulte is less shackled. You don't use that word by accident. He's unleashed. The Supreme Court just ruled 6-3 that federal judges can no longer issue nationwide injunctions to stop him. The last legal shield is gone. They can't stop the firings. They can't hide the files. They can't protect the names. Gabbard declassified the biolabs. Pulte is declassifying the surveillance. The next DNI, Jay Clayton, will declassify everything. Phase 1. Expose. Phase 2. Purge. We are here. Phase 3. Prosecute. Every patriot they spied on. Every journalist they fed lies to. Every agent who infiltrated a rally. Every dollar they stole from the black budget. All of it's coming out. Looking Glass. 47 million. Crossfire continuation. 23. J6 handler. Identified. The house of cards is collapsing. One floor at a time.
And I'm just going to refer to Trump's post right here. In light of the tremendous loss in the Supreme Court today concerning voters' rights and the fact that people's votes are allowed to be counted long after an election is over, it is more important than ever to pass the Save America Act, which is all voters must show photo ID, all voters must show proof of citizenship, no mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military deployment, or travel. The House of Representatives has approved this vital act 3 times. The United States Senate seems unable to do so. Our 5 Republican Senate holdouts, Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins, Tom Tillis, Bill Cassidy, Mitch McConnell, must vote to save our country. There can be no more excuses. Observing Consciousness, SCOTUS handed Congress the key. By Tara Zutz, Monday, June 29th. There is a little diagram there you can look at. Observing Consciousness. SCOTUS handed Congress the key. The Supreme Court just moved the election integrity battle out of the courtroom and directly into Congress. The majority ruled that a ballot cast by Election Day may still arrive and be counted later under state law. Then the court placed the remedy in plain sight. Election integrity, voter confidence, and any national ballot receipt deadline must be addressed by elected representatives. Trump seized that opening immediately. He is converting a judicial loss into a legislative forcing function. Photo identification establishes the voter. Proof of citizenship establishes eligibility. Firm limits on mail voting reduce the number of handoffs between the voter, the carrier, the election office, and the tabulation system. Identity, eligibility, chain of custody, timing. Together they form the foundation of a sovereign election stack that can be audited across every state. The third demand is the tell. The House passed Save America Act already contains proof of citizenship and photo identification, while its current language still allows mail ballots through additional verification. Trump has now raised the negotiating baseline and defined the stronger architecture he expects the Senate to deliver. I think we will soon watch Congress begin coming around. They will arrive slowly enough to preserve the appearance of randomness. One senator here, another there, keeping them guessing about who will move next and when the remaining resistance will collapse. Trump appears to hold extraordinary leverage over Washington, whether that leverage comes through evidence, exposure, political pressure inside the system. The pattern will be the same. He will reel them in one by one. The war language serves the same purpose. He is recategorizing election law as national security infrastructure. The legitimacy of government rests upon the legitimacy of the vote, making election security a sovereign duty. Naming the senators completes the pressure cycle. Procedural obstruction now carries names, votes, and political consequences. The court established the boundary. Congress now owns the solution. Trump is turning the ruling into leverage and forcing the Senate toward a single verifiable and auditable national standard before the midterms. The court did not end the fight. It handed Trump the fishing pole. Let's see how this plays out.
Secrets. So just left Cali. Boy, woo! So like California. The quake energy there is strong. So I was holding it so I could get out, and I don't know what's going to happen now, but I'm expecting the ground is going to shake all the way over here in Nevada here pretty soon. So, and who knows? Maybe not. Maybe you guys in Cali will be able to get together and pray, and it won't happen. But it's really looking like it's going to. All right, so let's look at some of the things that are going on out there. Just had a 5.5 off the coast of Oregon in that area where we're expecting Cascadia basically to create a tsunami. And usually when it happens, a fairly significant quake like happened today happens right after the full moon, the strawberry moon, right? So right after that, usually there is activity, which there was with that full moon. So, so we had a 5.5 out there. And next we're going to have a planetary alignment. All right, so lots of planets are lining up. So it's looking like something. And so we need to just be aware of the possibility of, things getting a little jiggy out there. Okay, so let's look at Mr. MBB 333. He had a little show about this, and let's play it and see. So he basically does a planetary alignment of what's coming.
Soon as we entered full moon phase, and we know how the full moon influences the planets, especially the Earth, not the planets, but it plays a part in the planetary alignment situation whenever the Earth is in these unique alignments. And we are again. And we have another full moon, just like we did last month. And look, we had the earthquake off the coast of Oregon, a 5.5 right here, just as the full moon was coming up over the horizon. Unbelievable. I mean, the timing was impeccable. This one here down in southern Illinois, are you kidding me right now? Illinois is definitely not known for earthquake activity. I mean, really? Yes, really. And then an earthquake in central South Carolina. I mean, wow, look at right through there. That's why I drew that line. There was a big old arc that went right through North America here in the United States. And there's what was that, a 3.5? I mean, that is unheard of. Man. Madrid. And here's the one in North. They do have earthquakes in South Carolina from time to time. They didn't used to have. It's kind of a new thing. But yeah, earthquakes popping off. So just be aware, guys. That is going on. And with these, let me show you the planetary alignments that we're in. It's very similar to the situation that we were in about 30 days ago, 28 days ago. Here we go. I'm going to show you guys what's up. I look at the planetary alignments all the time. And this is going to have a long duration for sure. So here we go. This is the current situation of the planets. Mercury is right there in retrograde. Those of you that follow Mercury in retrograde, yes, it's in retrograde right now. But these planetary alignments, these still got Earth and Mercury over here sharing the same side of the sun. Earth is in an alignment here, and it's not a straight line. They have to be off center. There's another one there. Those all involve gas giants. The main component capacitor, the main one is the sun. That one right here. Earth.
All right, so it's Earth, Mercury, and Jupiter, the big planet with the big spot on it. So Venus, the sun, all that alignment right there is probably going to pull some energy as it usually does. So put some the energy coming from the sun. We've had lots of energy coming from the sun. That's also been sparking some of these earthquakes, and it's not looking so good for big earthquakes, or depending on how you look at it. It's looking real good for big earthquakes, but not for those people who are on the receiving end of it. So you have to, trust your intuition. We're in that time where you're going to be challenged, I think, on many different levels, and one of those levels will be the Earth activity that's going on. So trying to stay safe, keep your people safe, and so forth is going to be challenging for some because they're not really tapped in, and then some will get trapped and won't do well, right? And this is what happens whenever we go through these periods. These periods have happened, throughout thousands of years here on Earth, tens of thousands of years, and we're coming into a very, very major cycle. So just heads up, be very, very cognizant of what's going on out there. Here's another expert that's sharing some really good information. He's been doing a really good job of showing the slow slip. So let's listen to what the Earth Master has to say.
Out here is greater across the southern end than at an entirety there across the Cascadia. So watching this closely, a 5.5 off the coast of Oregon. Have we seen 5-pointers out here before? Obviously, yes, we have. But, each day, each second that goes by, we're that much closer to seeing a big earthquake out here. The tremor counts have been way elevated underneath this region. We're already seeing stress quakes down here. Following this event, 2.3, 14.7 miles deep here. Remember, what goes on up here along this strike slip boundary heads the general motion of stress kind of goes down in this fashion here towards the southern end. So we're already seeing, like I said, a couple earthquakes down here into the Cascadia, probably right around the locked area. It looks like about 14 miles deep underneath this area. Let me show you guys the tremor map here from the past week here. Now, this is the past week. We got 3,127. That's a good number. Definitely an elevated number. But here's yesterday's counts, which were the highest so far in the daily accumulation there of slow slip events. A little bit underneath Washington, underneath Seattle, but the majority of these events here over the last week and yesterday underneath Northern California and the southern coast here of Oregon. So stress building right here. You got
so you saw what those lots of those little slow slip events are. See what that area is. That's right on the border of Oregon and California, just above Eureka. Right. So that is where the earthquake activity comes down into this area and creates larger earthquakes. So again, like I've said, I believe we're going to have a tsunami and probably the Andreas kick. And then maybe other faults will kick eventually, the Hayward fault. So it's going to be a domino effect. That's what I've seen in my visions for this area. Whether it happens, sooner than maybe later, it's going to happen. It's building. We're getting close. Now, a lot of people have predicted this for, decades, right? But, and I've looked at this stuff for decades and, watched the other people predicting this and so forth. Things change. All right. So people get involved, I think, consciousness wise and change things. But there's a lot of distractions these days, a lot of distractions. And what used to be I believe, people that were very tuned in to these vibrational activities and the frequencies and so forth, and were able to allay them, push them and push them to another date. I think we're reaching the end of how we can push these. They're going to have to come out. They're going to have to be relieved, and this is part of the cycle. Like I said, the earth energies and so forth. The earth is going through changes as well. So they build up over time, build up over hundreds of years, sometimes 1,000 years, like some of these. The San Andreas Fault, I guess, has, of course, it's had some shocks over the years, but the overall buildup stretches for 1,000 years. So it's looking like we're going to get some serious activity. Everything is pointing to now the earthquake activity we're seeing right now, the energy volumes that are coming off the sun, the electrical energies and so forth, this streams of plasma that are coming from the sun that's impacting the earth. It energizes the earth and then it gets impacted again, energizes it higher. We see earthquake activity and volcanic activity happening. It gets hit again. It energizes even more and more and more and more earthquake and volcanic activity. That cycle is not going to stop for a while. All right. So again, the slow slip, quakes that are happening on a massive level, and then right down in here is usually where we have the earthquakes later on.
And in the middle point here, that's where the stress is building. That's where the locked section is. So yeah, there's a lot going on out here around the globe here, and all these subduction zones and areas that have been building up stress and strain for a couple hundred years are starting to get big earthquakes. Good possibility it could be our turn out here along the West Coast. Just have to be on guard. We'll check out the tremor counts out here a little bit later on this evening. Once they come out, it's about 6 o'clock in the evening there, early evening.
All right, so we're 6 o'clock. Could be checking them, or maybe he's already checked them. So I'm going to check back and see, what he has as far as tremor counts. Now, tremor counts leading to big earthquakes, that's something that happens. And we saw on the opposite side, the antipode side, there was I think it was a 4.5. I checked this out in USGS. There was a 4.5 in Indonesia, 4.4, 4.5 earthquake in Indonesia. So the antipode would have been Venezuela, where it struck. So I know a lot of people think it's a flat Earth. I don't believe it's flat Earth. I believe it's roundish something Earth, right? Because of the way things are interacting. If it was a straight line, flat Earth, it wouldn't interact the way it is, where we're seeing antipode on the opposites of the globe, earthquake activity.